UAE, but first time in Saudi Arabia.
And is it your first time playing chess as an esports event?
I think I've played, on screen, obviously, Champions Tour had the esports vibe to it for sure. One of the tour events we played on screens as well, across each other. But, as part of the official esports event, so-called. Yeah, the first time.
Are you excited?
For sure. Looking forward to see. And, in terms of like content production, they're definitely up there.
You're gonna love the stage that you'll be playing on.
I bet. Even the qualifier was already quite impressive, and I heard it's gonna, they're gonna move it up.
Yeah, it was really cool watching Anish qualify through the last chance qualifiers. Were you feeling a lot of pressure?
Well, it was a big challenge. Not too much pressure because, it was such a long road ahead that I didn't really even think about making it all the way. But step by step, got there somehow.
Well, we're gonna be putting the pressure on Anish because you have to pick one of these blindfolds. And Anish will be playing us in blindfolded chess while we try to distract him with some more questions.
For me, it's enough to remove my glasses. It's already blindfolded, kind of. I don't really need to put anything on, yeah. So, okay, go.
Okay, I'm starting the clock. Okay, I went E4.
C5.
C5. Knight F3.
D6, yeah, please press my clock. D6, I hear that you're not pressing my clock.
Sorry. D4, I'm getting called
D4.
Anish. Okay, C.
Press faster, please. Press faster.
Knight takes D4.
Knight F6.
Knight F6. Okay, maybe I'll use 2 hints. Knight C3.
A6.
A6. Bishop to E3.
E5.
E5. Knight B3.
Bishop E6.
Bishop E6. H3.
Wow, Knight BD7.
Knight BD7. You weren't phased at all.
I was briefly phased, but now I'm undaunted.
All right, G4.
H6.
H6. I don't even have time to ask you questions. Is this your strategy? Queen F3.
I think you're the one under pressure. Queen F3, you said?
Yeah, Queen F3.
Rook C8.
C8. I'm the one wait, why am I the one under pressure?
Yeah, you tell me.
Okay, well, look. I got checkmated in about 20 moves by Fabi, so...
I think if you're not gonna ask questions, I'll start asking questions at some point. So, you pass along?
Yeah, I castle along.
Okay, I take Rook C3.
Wow, you're just attacking already. Okay, B takes C3, obviously.
C7.
C7.
So how did you get into chess, Nima?
Well, I started when I was 3. When did you start playing, Anish?
I'm just helping you out there. Did you play the Queen C7 or not?
I played Queen C7 for you. All right, King B2.
Bishop E7.
Bishop E7. Yeah, I started when I was 3. You started really young as well, right?
Not as young, no. I tried even when I was 5, but I was too little for it. So I really started when I was 6 or 7.
How did your first few years of chess go?
Not as well as the next few, but I tried.
D1, G1, sorry.
G1.
Yeah. So by
Castles.
By going well the next few years, you mean you just won every tournament, or?
Yeah, actually, I started winning everything when I was a kid. The very beginning, and I was playing against other kids who were also very bad. H takes G5.
Yep. Bishop takes G5.
Oh, this is getting a bit out of hand. But okay, Rook C8.
Rook C8. So you were beating all the kids really young, and then you started beating adults?
When I was growing up in St. Petersburg, and there's a culture of like chess clubs for children specifically, not like in the Netherlands where the clubs are filled with grown-ups. So I haven't been playing that many grown-ups at first. But I obviously played my mom.
Nice. And your mom was really good?
No, but she was better than me at first.
Rook to G3.
King F8.
King F8. H4.
Okay, Knight B6.
Knight B6. King B1.
B1, okay, but not Knight A4?
Knight A4, yeah. I was just gonna go bishop to... I think I'm still going to go. Am I missing something here?
I don't know. Am I missing something here?
No, I don't think so. I was just gonna go bishop to...
It's unclear, who's missing
D2.
here, who's asking the questions. It's all
I feel like I'm being
flexible.
quizzed. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Anish is also commonly known as the draw master. Would you call yourself a master of draws?
Okay, the problem is also I have difficulty on the board after bishop d2. I have to decide how to break it. D5?
This was the move I was most worried about. I will play E takes D5.
Bishop takes d5?
Bishop takes D5. Okay, you have 1 minute 40 and I have 1 minute, by the way.
I'm gonna flag you.
There's 2-second increment. Did you know that?
But
You're still gonna flag me?
at the pace you are playing, you're not gonna make it.
Okay, I'll go queen to d3. Do you feel additional pressure being part of an esports team?
No. I feel, additional support. Bishop e4.
Bishop
e4.
e4. Okay.
I heard Fabio won in like 15 moves or something, so this is really...
Did you say 15? I thought it was 20. Jan, how many moves was it?
15.
It was 15? Oh my gosh, I thought I made 5 moves. Okay, queen to d3.
No,
e3.
e3, okay. This is not easy.
How many moves did you think you would beat me in?
Less than the number of moves I'm going to beat you in. Okay, let's
Sure?
go.
Who says you're beating me?
Queen c6.
Queen c6. Queen to g5.
Oh yeah. So I was already hoping, you'll start getting ambitious there. Bishop g6.
Bishop g6. Oh, you play bishop g6. Okay, I'm gonna play. Oh, queen takes e5.
Why are you so excited? Bishop d6.
Bishop d6 because I was low on time. Queen to d4.
Logical. Bishop takes g3.
F takes g3. Oh, sorry. I'll move this properly.
Knight to e4.
Knight to e4. Oh no, I am in some trouble here. Queen to
You're still not. That's a problem.
b. Oh, I lost on time.
You did?
I did.
I knew it.
Time.
I knew it.
Oh no.
No, you played very well. It's very unclear. If you play c4,
It's c4.
not even sure if I'm better, to be honest.
Well, thank you very much. What do you give yourself in terms of percentage chances to win this event?
Even if we all had even shot, it would be, between 5 and 10. And we don't all have even shots.
So, what
Okay,
percent?
my percentage of winning the whole thing, 0.6%.
0.6%. Why are you giving yourself less than 1%?
Because I want to make that bet and cash big. That's why.
Fair enough. All right.
Yes.
Well, Anish, convinced that he has 0.6%. Make sure you're rooting for him for this Esports World Cup as well as Team Secret. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
When the world of business is constantly changing, you need to stay ahead. So what about AI to generate new possibilities? Machine learning to predict what customers will like. Or expand your business by forecasting delivery routes with real-time data. With the power of the cloud, imagine how AWS can transform your business.
This wasn't just about who's the best. It was about who had to win.
This amount of money it's life-changing, not just for them, but everyone that is close to them.
It's crazy. They're so good at a game, they can make millions of dollars. Who are these people?
One win, one chance. For everything they carried with them.
name is Andrei Sipenko. I represent the team Virtus Pro. I packed my bags already. I couldn't imagine playing here, but yeah, I was very lucky and I'm very pleased and happy. In Riyadh, I played one of my best chess games I've ever played against Sergei Karyakin. Place is quite lucky for me, I would say.
I'm Levon Aronian. I'm representing Reject. The first time I came in 2017. I was really upset that I couldn't qualify straight to here. Yeah, it's such a tough tournament. So many people missed out on this opportunity. So I'm planning to do my best, not just over the board, but also outside to promote our game.
My name is Anish Giri. I'm Team Secret. You know everything about me. I tweet all the time, man. Well, I mean, I guess it wouldn't be nice to be in a group with like all the best speed chess players all at once. Like if I'd have a group where there's Carlsen and Hikaru and maybe Alireza, let's say, all three, you know, it's gonna be really tough. Everybody is so strong that there isn't someone I consider like a client or anything. But there are some players with whom I have better score than with some others.
My name is Nihal Sarin. I'm a chess grandmaster from India and I'm representing Team SA2L. This format for chess is, maybe you could say, the future, because I think it's extremely entertaining. Yeah, I think the whole setup is very good and I hope this will be the future of chess. I would love to play against Magnus, for example. Also, it sounds a bit strange to wish for Magnus to be in the group. I mean, if I had to say someone is an underdog, then I guess I'm among the ones.
I am Vachier Sindarov. I'm representing Team Vitality. Everyone was here very strong, of course, but mostly I want to play, of course, against Magnus, yeah, because he's the best of the best. Maybe also I want to like to play with Hikaru, players which I want to play.
Welcome back. Day 2, Esports World Cup. Wow, look at that. It's Nihal Sarin ready to go. Anish Giri walking and being very smooth, of course. Just always smooth guy. Shout out to Anish Giri here, playing 2 as well. We have some matches today and we are back. Welcome. Hope you guys are doing well. I am FIDE Master James Canty III here, joined by WGM Nemo and Grandmaster Benjamin Bach. How are we today, guys? Day 2.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome, James. I am very excited. We did see Anish Giri of Team Secret just walk in, and we have Nihal Sarin of SA2L Esports as well, getting ready to play.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting matchup. I mean, we have Anish with, I think he'll be starting out with the white pieces against Nihal. Or actually, I'm seeing here on my screen, Anish will start with the black pieces. But yeah, it's going to be a close one. I would give the slight edge to Anish. He's really good in preparing. And since they're playing the first match of the day, that definitely gave him the opportunity to prepare. But Nihal, he's such a fast and tricky player, so it can really go either way.
Nemo, is this elimination today? What if I lose a match? What happens?
If you lose a match today, you are done. You're gone. You have to go home. I mean, I don't actually know if you have to go home. Maybe you can stay for the rest of the tournament, but unfortunately, you will not be able to keep competing for the $250,000 first place prize, which is pretty insane. I mean, it is going to be intense. Anish Giri did lose to MVL yesterday in the initial Group B. What do we think of that?
Yeah, MVL managed to win that match, but the winner of this match, Nemo, will get a rematch against MVL. But the tough thing is, 2 players will get eliminated. So the loser of this match will get eliminated. The winner will play MVL, and whoever loses that one will also go home.
It's going to be crazy. Here we can see the Esports World Cup Club Championship rankings. We do have Team Vitality in the lead with 2,400 points. That is the team that currently has MVL, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, on their team, and we can see Gen G in second, as well as Team Falcons in third.
What about Magnus's team? Where is that at? Bach?
They're in 6th place with Team Liquid, but yeah, we talked about MVL. He is on Team Vitality, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. I'm sure that they're definitely hoping for him to do a good job and get some more points on that scoreboard and extend their lead.
For sure. I mean, whoever wins this match is going to be playing against MVL. I mean, it is going to be a really, really close one. They're both quite good, you know. They're top of the table in terms when it comes to Blitz.
And here's yesterday's, of course, as you see, lots of things that happened. Recapping from yesterday here, we had this crazy game with Arjun actually just on fire yesterday, winning all of his matches here in MVL, looking to try to bounce back here as Arjun was able to defeat MVL. Good spirits as always, as chess players are here, especially after the game. This was a very incredible game from both sides here. In fact, MVL missed some chances in the Armageddon game. Talk about a little bit about what happened yesterday, Bob.
Yeah, so yesterday, Arjun, really impressive display. He managed to beat Nihal 2-0. He won the first game very convincingly with the white pieces. Second game, he was in a lost position, but he hung in there, managed to drag the game out, and eventually Nihal didn't find the win and even lost. And then I also really liked how Arjun played against MVL. He won that first game very convincingly with the black pieces. MVL managed to strike back, but that did not throw off Arjun at all. He won the Armageddon, and that's why he's already in the quarterfinals.
Look at all these reactions here, Nemo. I mean, people just reacting to what happens here. As you see, chess players, we wear our hearts on our sleeve and our emotions on our face in this chess game, obviously.
When the stakes are this high, it's very hard not to.
Yeah. Absolutely. It was Levon Aronian with always the iconic stretch ready to go here. MVL, yes, you can see with the breath there, just understanding it wasn't a good one for me. Arjun with generally never lets that out. That actually is a very surprising to me. Never see Arjun actually do that. Magnus with a reaction here. This is a typical Magnus, as Magnus always reacts, even if he's winning. Oh, I could have played better. That's just how it is. I could have played better, but I was already better, but I could have played better. It's just Magnus.
Magnus's hand expressions telling everything about the game. What is this move? What is that move? You know, what is going on in his game? But he didn't have too much trouble defeating young Krzysztof Duda yesterday. But going back to today's match, I mean, guys, they are sitting down now behind us. What are your picks? I'll start with you, Benjamin.
I'm going to go with my countryman, Anish Giri. I think he's a slight favorite in this one. Like I said earlier, especially because he's got the chance to prepare. Anish's opening preparation is top-notch. Nihal will try to surprise him early on, try to get Anish out of his preparation. I mean, I'm going to go with Anish, but Nihal, he can play as well.
And of course, I always go the other way. So if you go with Anish, I got to go with Nihal here, of course. As he said with the people we saw earlier, that he's out. If anyone's an underdog, it's me. And it's like, wow, like that type of spirit, that underdog spirit there, where, you know, he kind of has nothing to lose in the way, obviously, he does. But you have that just like chip off of your shoulder. I just got to play and get it done here. Talk about this prize pool we have here, Nemo.
We do have 250,000 in first. It is a total prize pool of 1.5 million for the chess portion here at the Esports World Cup. Of course, second place not too shabby with 190,000. But don't forget, first place also gets to assign 1,000 points for their team in the overall club championship. So that's a pretty big deal.
It definitely is, yeah. So there must be perhaps a bit of added pressure on the players. And yeah, looking at those prizes, Nemo, we see that if you finish in last place, you go home with $50,000. Definitely not too shabby. So that is what these two players are fighting for. I mean, whoever loses this match will take the bottom prize, and whoever wins already goes up a little bit.
I mean, if you win, you get an additional $15,000. That's not bad for a work day over here, as both players are certainly going to be gunning for that win. It's not just about the prize pool, obviously. It's also about the game. They're very competitive. That's how they got here.
Absolutely. Of course, competition is the name of the game. Let's take a look at the brackets and see what do we have or where in you know, groups and all and et cetera here. Here we go. Group A. Let's take a look at what happened as you see through the winners match and the decider match there. We have Yesepenko losing to Levon Aronian, advances to the playoffs here. And then the decider match here, Andrei Yesepenko is awaiting Jan Nepomniachtchi and Vlad Artemiev down there as well. In Group B, can we talk about Group B, Bob?
Yeah, so in Group B, we see that Maxime Vachier-Lagrave defeated Anish in the first match and then lost to Arjun Erigaisi. So Arjun Erigaisi is the first quarter-finalist emerging from this group. And we see in the elimination match, we have Anish Giri against Nihal Sarin. One of those players, unfortunately, will go home. The winner of that match will play MVL for another spot in the quarterfinals.
It's very intense all around. In Group C, we had Hikaru Nakamura triumph over Javakir Sindarov, but he had to face off against fellow Team Falcons member Alireza Firouzja, which he did lose to in Armageddon. So now we have Hikaru Nakamura later today in the Group C decider match, who will be playing.
And in Group D here, the last group, as we see the opening matches, was Magnus and Fabiano on the bottom there. But Magnus makes it through as usual. We always used to hearing that. Magnus makes it through, advances to the playoffs. At the bottom there, young Krzysztof Duda is awaiting Norderbeck and Fabiano, who will go through. Very exciting matchups today. Which ones are you looking forward to the most?
I'm looking forward to the one that's going to be starting right behind me.
What about you, Bach?
Yeah, same. This one is going to be exciting. I'm also really excited to see Hikaru in action again. Yesterday, he lost that match for the quarterfinal spot against Farrugia, his teammate. So I'm really curious to see how he will try to strike back today.
I'm actually more excited about the decider matches on all of those because those are very important. People will be going home today. And over here on Stream B, we're going to have all of them to show you that stuff today. Today's schedule, though, we have Anish Giri versus Nihal Sarin coming right up. And then after that, whoever wins that match is going to face MVL. They're in a decider match. Whoever wins goes home. Okay, Nima, we didn't get your pick, actually.
My pick, honestly, is going to be Anish Giri. I feel like Anish Giri and Nihal both played in the last chance qualifiers to get here. They're both ready to fight. Nihal didn't have the most stable showing yesterday in his match against Arjun Erigasi. Obviously, you know, we are going to be doing a hot take though, so maybe you have something spicier for us.
I do say, you know, I was going with Nihal, but I'm going to say hot take is going to be Anish Giri making it through and beating MVL as well. So sponsored by Dr. Suleiman El Habib. So I think that is actually.
Is that the hot of a take though? Because you know we both are taking the stake. Is it hot anymore?
It's very hot. In fact, we are in Saudi Arabia, and it is actually hot. In fact, but at the same time here, I think Anish Giri is going to make it through. But Nihal is an underdog. He also has to face MVL. So we'll see what happens here. Put your predictions in chat. What do you think? Okay, here we go. And match of the day. Here we go. Anish Giri versus Nihal Sarin. Put your predictions in chat. Who are you rooting for? Who's going to make it through to face Maxime Vachier-Lagrave here? Can you talk about some strengths and some weaknesses for both? Actually, we'll start with Anish for you and then Nihal for you, Ba.
Yeah, so Nihal's strengths, I'd say really is his resourcefulness. He's super tricky. Also, when he's low on time, you might think like, oh, Nihal's got 20 seconds, he's in a bad position, I'm gonna win. No, no, no. Like, you gotta really convert those good positions into full points. He is super fast, even with his back against the wall. So I'd say those are really his strengths, and I'm really curious to see what he's gonna do in the opening. I think he'll play something offbeat, like Knight f3, B3, and try to avoid major theory against Anish.
Yeah, and what do you think?
I certainly think that, you know, judging by what you've said so far about Anish seems to have amazing opening prep. It is going to be really tough for Nihal to perhaps, you know, figure all of this out with only 10 minutes on the clock. There's only 10 minutes, so you have to play fast, but you also have to deal with whatever your opponent is throwing at you straight out of the opener.
Wow. Well, at the same time, of course, guys, we got so much content today, so much things to do, and the match ready to go. Let's take a look at a little bit of video content we made for you guys.
He made me look like a bad player, to be honest. The way I played was really not very good. I was a little slow in the first game at the start, got under an uncomfortable position, but then at some point he tried to gamble it a little bit because I had less time. He went for something which is very risky for him too.
I think it was a very interesting match. I mean, the scoreline doesn't really reflect how close it was because like both matches were kind of decided in seconds. I think that's what we all want.
Incredible. Oh, he misses it.
This queen comes in.
Oh my goodness, and Arjun gets a queen and wins.
I've lost a match to Nihal in the qualifier. It was the one match that I lost. You know, I won all the other ones. So he's not most, you know, best opponent for me either.
Anish has improved a lot in general in speeches also, but Anish is catching up really fast, and obviously it's not going to be easy. He's an amazing player, and I think the main focus for me should be try to be clutch basically.
And we're back here. As you see, the players are ready to go. Wow, look at that. Friday Stowe, it's just quiet out there. Like everybody, you can feel the tension about to happen here because these are some very important matches here. And we're going to say goodbye to our analysts for now. Thank you, WGM Nemo and Grandmaster Benjamin Bach here. As we're going to bring in our casters to get ready for the match. Anish Giri is locked in, ready to go, thinking about what he wants to play. Nihal the same, just getting his mind right, getting stoic, ready to play and go. As we have our casters with us, Grandmaster Amon Hamilton and Grandmaster Eric Hansen to call all the action. What's up, guys?
Hello, James. Thanks for the introduction. We are as excited as the fans to get right into today's action because, Eric, this is a decider match, right? We are actually saying goodbye to someone. We don't know who's going all the way through, but we will see someone eliminated.
Yeah, yesterday, you know, nobody was eliminated. The players slept. The players we're watching today all know this could be their last, so the stakes are much higher.
Right, exactly. And we're getting into Nihal Sarin, Team SAUL Esports, and of course Anish Giri, Team Secret. Eric, early on, G3, C4, not even going after the center here. Queen A4. I have seen a move like this before. Initial idea, pawn takes in the middle on D5. You can't take back with the pawn. So kind of an unorthodox way to just make a difficult decision early for Anish.
Yeah, this has become pretty trendy. Yeah, as you mentioned, the goal is to prevent black from being able to take back with the pawn, which is why knight D7 is often a response here. Unpinning and not putting your knight on the worst square. It has a future. If you play bishop D7, sure, you prepare to take, but not so, yeah, knight D7 is being played. The bishop on D7, it doesn't do much. The knight on D7, we see it transfers to B6, and now black is in time to recapture with the pawn, if he so chooses, or with the queen. It's just a sideline. Again, in rapid chess, you can have a wider repertoire. You can play lines that allow equality with best play. It's up to your opponent to remember everything. And not surprised Anish, he plays so many different openings. He's looking for, well, just maybe a weak point in Nihal's openings. The players did know ahead of time, you know, they were playing, they had the knight to maybe check out openings.
That's a good point. Chess players, you know, knowing the opponent in advance gives you time to do a little bit of preparation. When you see a knight on B6, Eric, usually that's a clear indication to start pushing the pawn up A4, A5. But what's curious to me is that Nihal seems to be breaking almost every, you know, general chess principle here. We've got the queen developed. Until this move, we didn't have a single piece developed, and he was just already moving pawns. So very unorthodox by Nihal as well.
It is unorthodox, but he is known to play knight F3, G3, some of these starting opening moves that maybe aren't, you know, they're not as popular as E4, D4. And some of the benefits of playing knight F3 in the first move, it's transpositions or G3. I mean, and we have a position that's kind of transposed to, I'd almost like to say, there's some Grunfeld positions that are similar, but black has to play G6 for it to be a Grunfeld. This is a bit of a more unique position where that might, maybe Nihal's choosing it because he's like, well, Anish is so well prepared. I might break a few opening principles, but if it takes Anish out of his general theory, that'll be worth it. And we saw Nihal's ability to grind yesterday against Arjun. I mean, he lost that game. It was a heartbreaking result, but he played a quiet opening. He got the bishop pair in a relatively, you know, okay equal position, and he was still happy to play that, and he outplayed Arjun to get a winning position. So I don't think, if I'm in Nihal's shoes, looking at what happened yesterday,
I think we're seeing that more and more in this event, in the EWC. We're seeing players, they don't need a huge advantage of the opening. They just need a playable position, and the time actually dictates a lot of the game. What type of position are you willing to take with the time into consideration as well? Clearly, Nihal wants to get castled. Bishop G2, kingside castle, D3 also kicks out this knight from C4. But you know, this move knight C4 is also going to quickly retreat, either to A5 and C6 or to the D6 square immediately.
I just want to clarify for the viewers because it can get a little confusing. Nihal, his camera's on the right. He's playing the white pieces. Anish is on the left, and he's playing the black pieces. It might not always be consistent there, but yeah, that's how the alignment is.
Yeah, and I mean, this last move, bishop e7, Anish has a very standard position. It started out really strange, but you know what, Eric? I think that knight on c4 is going to be kicked out at some point. Probably knight a5 is going to be played, attacking the white queen, and it's going to come back to c6, and all of a sudden, it feels like we're going to be playing a very standard position. It's actually going to be very symmetrical as well, because we have an open c-file. Yeah, this actually just looks very, very equal.
It does, and I think it's good that you point out knight a5, which is what Anish played. Knight d6 would have been another retreating move, but knight a5 takes maybe one square extra to go to c6, but c6 is a much better square for the knight. It's not in the way of the bishop, not in the way of the pieces. So knights, sometimes you're not looking one move ahead, it's more about that second move. Where is the best place for it? Anish, everything he's doing is fine, as you mentioned. It feels very equal. But if I'm in Nihal's shoes and I see my result yesterday, I got knocked down I lost Arjun. But he was winning that second game. So in terms of game planning, I think he has to, continue playing the way he's been playing and obviously convert that winning position. But
Exactly.
I don't think it was like a disaster yesterday that he just got blown off the board. I think he can continue playing in his style and just tweaking that conversion.
Exactly, and we see here, we're looking at a situation where, once again, it's kind of an equal position. Time is equal as well, but again, you don't need to be concerned. In this format, you just want a position that's playable, which means you know the plans, you know where the pieces go. This move, Queen B1, it tells me that he's at least reasonably familiar with this position. He played it quickly. The idea, B2 to B4, he wants to push that pawn up, gain some space, supported by the bishop and the queen. He also wants to bring that rook on F1 over to the open file on C1. So A5, a standard reaction. It gives up a square, Eric, on B5, but it does prevent B4.
I think it's important to prevent B4 because if you allow white to play B4, B5, kick away that knight, then that knight on F3 is looking for a good square. It would love to jump to E5 if possible, but that requires removing the knight on C6. Anish is making sure that's not easily achievable. And yeah, we have a fairly equal position here, and it's, I think, clock management. I think a few of the moves, the next few moves for Nihal are going to be very telling because he's played a lot of the easy natural moves. And now if he wants to push a piece away, gain some space, it's going to be much harder. There's no easy pawn breaks.
No, and you see this move. I think the idea that he wants is maybe knight E5, but also the rook on A1. What used to be maybe a well-placed rook on A1 with B4 coming and a queenside expansion, now the rook on A1 is not looking that great. I'm even considering an idea like, moving the queen in order to get the rooks out, but the knight for black is jumping into the B4 square. So I was thinking, we could move the rook up, maybe rook C3, try to move the queen over to D1, double the rooks on the C file. He's doing it a different way with queen A2. It does allow knight B4 with tempo, but you can see he needs to untangle himself on the queen side.
Yeah, connecting the rooks definitely needs to be done, and he's willing to allow knight b4 because the queen can place itself on b3. It doesn't get hit anymore, and sure, it's a nice outpost on b4. But if that knight vacates the c6 square, then that knight on f3 of Nihal's maybe can jump towards the center. So Anish isn't falling for the bait so easily. I mean, knight b4 might as well wait for a better opportunity. What's a better opportunity? Well, if white ever goes, rook c2, then knight b4 is a fork. If white goes rook c3 looking to double, then there might also be some moves to harass it.
And I was thinking about after this last move, he is maybe intending a move like e5 here. There is some ideas like e5, white captures the pawn on e5, and then there's this bishop takes f2 move at the end with knight to g4 and potential forks. So it doesn't necessarily win material, but even that being present in the position, that could cause Nihal to say, okay, I'm going to play d4. Make sure we cover all of those moves. But d4 Eric comes with its own weaknesses. Suddenly the e4 square is a square for that black's knight can just jump into.
Yeah, he's baiting d4. I think this is a good read by Anish because he wants white to play d4, not just because it weakens e4, but also the structure becomes a bit more clarified and becomes a bit more symmetrical.
There it is.
When you play pawn at d4, you lose the ability to ever try to play pawn to e4, which with the pawn on d3, white usually wants to keep that as an option because you need to push the pawn to e4 to free up the bishop on g2. Now the bishop on g2 won't have that free diagonal, and this position is definitely very, very equal, and Anish has to be comfortable because there's not even like pressure here from Nihal.
No, he can be very happy. I mean, black can play a move like queen d7. There's also an idea of bringing the knight back from e4 in the center to d6. And on d6, you could try to trade for white's knight on b5. But I like just queen d7. Queen e7, I suppose, is also fine to connect the rooks. You see a much more aggressive idea here with g5. But, I mean, Eric, I think this tells me that Anish Giri feels that he has something to play for, that the opening has gone well, and it's not just equal, he actually prefers his position.
For sure. When you play g5, it's almost always in conjunction with f5, grabbing all that space. And to grab all that space, he feels like white's pieces aren't well placed to maybe target the king side, weaken Anish's king side. And it's a tell that Anish feels like Nihal's not pressed his opening. He hasn't placed his pieces on their best squares. And it's my turn. I can play g5, I can play f5, I can maybe bring my queen to f6, and I can look towards playing moves like g4, f4, because Nihal's queen is committed to b3, and I don't see a lot of mobility there. So I definitely see the understanding why Black feels like there's a bit of potential on the king side right now.
And the first move that I would at least consider here is knight on f3 into e5 in the center, at least if it's captured. After we recapture it, the bishop on e3 would have a bit more scope. If we don't play that move, you know, I start to think about the move f4. How scared am I of pawn to f4 for black? The move f5 supports e4. It anchors the knight in there, but it also has the additional idea of continuing to push forward. And as soon as black plays something like queen f6, you're not going to have knight e5 available after that. So it feels like the move knight e5 is kind of now or never.
Yeah, knight e5 is now or never because queen f6 is too easy for Anish to play, and Anish now almost has a minute and a half on the clock. So if Nihal continues to slow down, you know what I've noticed? He is prone to time trouble, serious time trouble. He got away with it in the last chance qualifier. He won a few games, showing incredible speed and conversion. But against Anish, I don't think you want to risk that. And he has been punished as well in some games for his time management. So it's up to Nihal right now to play very forcefully, very quickly. Otherwise, he's really going to fall behind.
Well, he's just played knight d2. So clearly a different idea. The move f4 right now would be on my mind, right? That's the move that we were concerned about last time. Now f4 actually traps the bishop, but of course there are other moves that can be thrown in first, like knight takes e4 or bishop takes e4. Also, if the knight captures on e4 right now, Eric, you're maybe taking back with the f-pawn. You're perfectly happy with that. So we could just see a build-up move by Anish, or if he's feeling more forceful, he could actually go for a move like f4. It's very dicey.
f4 is critical. I think Nihal's planning knight takes e4, f takes e3, Anish taking white's dark squared bishop, and Nihal's simply going to recapture with his f-pawn. And what you should focus on is when the f4 pawn, f5 pawn pushes ahead and white ever captures on e4, that e6 pawn is looking very vulnerable, because if black ever goes d5 takes e4, the queen on b3 can actually join the game. Nihal's looking for a way to involve his queen on b3 in the game, because otherwise it's going to be stuck there for a long time, and you don't want that happening when Anish is pushing on the king side.
Yeah, that's a good point. Even at the cost of a piece, if the white queen jumps into e6, everything could change. And I think realizing that, Anish takes a safer approach here. He realizes he's got a little bit of a time edge. Let me bring that knight back. I've still got f4 in my pocket. Once I exchange some pieces like this strong knight on b5, we can reroute things. Bring the knight on c6 back into the game. Maybe knight e7 to g6. The queen can come to f6. And still, you've got that f4 move for later.
What I like about knight d6 is you're offering to trade a knight, but it's white's knight on b5, not white's knight on d2. The knight on d2 is not a great piece. So Nihal played knight d2, looking to trade. Anish says no, and now you have to move the knight back and lose a little bit of time. Yes, you got an exchange, but now you have to spend the time moving the knight back into the game.
There we go. The knight comes back to f3. And it's no disaster here for Nihal. Piece trades are good. So even just that one exchange of knights does help out the position here. The rook on a1 wants to move to c1. There will be some pressure on the knight on c6. So, you know, it's definitely not over. And every time f4 happens, Eric, you also have to watch out for the g6 square. The white queen sliding over into the center, queen d3. If that f4 move is played, you're jumping into g6. That's a disaster. So you have to remember, these pawn moves are scary, but they also are exposing your own king in the process. So Giri has to be careful, especially as time gets low, that he is able to keep everything under control.
And control's a big factor here. Anish has pushed his pawns ambitiously on the king's side. That requires more maintenance. Knight b4 is practical because that b6 pawn was loose in so many lines. By placing the knight on b4, the queen doesn't need to stay defending b6, and it can find a better square like f6 that we've discussed where it's really in the game.
Yep, and so we see bishop a6, so hitting the e2 pawn, which explains queen back to d1. The rook on c1 is on the open file. It's the only piece there, but what can it do on that open file? And, okay, big moment here. Will the players repeat? Anish is indicating that he is okay with a repetition here. I mean, with 3 minutes, 2.5, Eric, we could see this game end right here in repetition, but Nihal is in control of that decision, and he does not repeat.
Yeah, he thinks this is a 2-game match. I can't afford to repeat and just give Anish a white game to try to eliminate me. Now, you're not happy to put your rook on a1, but it's the game. You can't afford to repeat. One idea for white, we've discussed it before, you want to get your knight on e5. Does that mean white should now place their bishop on c3? Instead, Nihal says, no, I'm going to get rid of that knight on b4. And now the rook can, for example, slide over to c1. There's no repetition ideas. And the pieces are getting traded, as you mentioned. makes it harder for black to actually conduct a successful attack with limited material on the board.
And the bishop pair for black. We know how dangerous that can be. We talk about it a lot. But admittedly, this is a more closed position, and I think the knight has a fantastic square on e5. Even if it's kicked out, it can drop back to d3. So I wouldn't be surprised to see white kind of, just bring the position together, shore it up. b3, e3. The bishop on g2 can drop back to f1. The knight can try to jump into e5. The attack is not really there anymore. We're more in an endgame now, and I think this favors Nihal.
I think, yeah, we like what Nihal's been doing. He solved a lot of his issues, and we know he doesn't mind simple endgames. He's played a few of them. This is fairly risk-free. He's caught up on the clock. The moves you mentioned, b3, e3, knight e5, but he's gone for g4.
Wow,
he's trying to weaken
I didn't mention that
side.
one. I did not mention that one, Eric. g4 is hyper-aggressive.
It's considered one of the breaks against the stonewall structure. Usually you need to prepare it with h3. Why not this time? Because queen g6 is a possibility. And the other idea, you want to break the stonewall structure, pawns on e5 and d5. Eventually you take on f5. What happens? The d5 pawn becomes critically weak. So yes, playing against two bishops, opening up the position might seem counterintuitive, but he's found himself a long-term target.
And now
on
it's
d5.
happening. And we talked about the weakness of that g6 square. Now queen c6, big decision to be made. If you capture on e5, look at what's left. The f6 square is weak. The d5 pawn is weak. You have to find a very critical move here. Queen c7 offers a trade, but it just drops the d5 pawn. So, Eric, this is a really, really tough moment here for Anish, and you can see it's reflected in the time. He needs to find a move.
I'm struggling to find a move because, yeah, the d5 looks like it's hanging in every line.
Yep.
Do we have time to play bishop e6? I mean, bishop takes d5 there. There's some things to calculate. I can't tell entirely, but it's looking good for white. I think Nihal is either much better, or he can always bail out to something that's relatively equal, but he's still pushing ahead.
Okay, we've done this. Queen c1, remember the bishop can drop back to the f1 square. This looks, yeah, perfectly comfortable. And if you're repeating here as Giri, you've dropped a pawn and you haven't claimed anything back for it. So this is looking very good for Nihal.
He's preparing to move the bishop to c4. What is Anish going to do? You cannot allow bishop c4 and all those attacking ideas, bishop and queen, planning to play queen g8 check. How do you stop bishop c4? He goes bishop b7,
Queen e6 you have to take because queen g6 was going to win the game on the spot. This is a huge position now. Yes, you trade queens, but Eric, you have an extra pawn and it is on a dark square on e5.
I think it's critical if Anish considers a trade that he needs to get the move in pawn f5 to f4. If you ever allow white to shore up things, play f4 yourself, defend that passed pawn, then it's really a full pawn up in a favorable endgame.
So he has to move bishop to b5 here. It offers a trade. I think you're exactly right. If b3 is played, f4 by black would play.
He finds bishop b5.
This is an absolutely huge move, and it's getting a deserved exclamation mark.
That pawn endgame is lost for black. Anish cannot afford to trade, but look for this f2 to f4 move.
Critical.
And things are looking really bad all of a sudden. Nihal's found weaknesses. He's picked up a pawn. Look at his body language, looking to convert. Anish is down to 30 seconds here.
30
He's staring
seconds.
in the face, lost positions.
f4 immediately. You defend that pawn. It's all on dark squares. That's a light squared bishop for Anish. This is, again, a position that Nihal should be winning, if not on the board, on the clock, Eric.
But, you know, this is similar. He was a pawn up against Arjun yesterday. Can he convert this time?
Yep. No, this is a big moment for him. It's going to show that he's learned the importance of, his mistake last time. Can he convert?
But Anish is starting to play quickly. He did this against Hans Niemann and pulled off an improbable victory.
Yep, we saw that in the last chance qualifier. b3 has been played. I think he wants to maybe slowly bring that king over, king d2, king c3. But remember, if you go too far that way, Eric, g4, h5, h4 will happen.
And again, Anish is repeating, just moving his bishop back and forth. That's all he can do. He can't afford to trade, and he can't afford to think.
And in some ways, it's easier to play those repeating moves because his position is worse.
Nihal is slowing down. He's losing his time advantage.
Oh,
Shouldn't he
my
learn from
goodness.
yesterday? Okay.
I like this decision. He needs to somehow play the move e4, bishop d5 and e4. I think it's time.
The more trades, the closer to at least securing a draw if you need to bail out as Nihal. But Nihal's maintaining that time advantage. He's up 10 seconds. Where's the breakthrough?
He's doing a good job. I would consider bishop c4 and bishop back to d3. That would hit the bishop and the f5 pawn.
Instead, I think he's using his e-pawn to distract the king and win the queen side. There could be some risk there. Can he afford to push? I think he can. He can afford to push.
The time is evening up, though. Anyone can win this game.
If he pushes, there's king b7? No, there's not. There's no time because you queen. Bishop
b5.
b5.
That is an absolutely huge move. But you know what? There's still time here. The thing is, Nihal, now it is simple. You just have to watch out for f4. And Anish doesn't even try. And Nihal wins game 1.
Well, we saw improvements over his performance yesterday. He was up a pawn. Again, Nihal is so good at finding these little edges, even from an opening position that we didn't like. And as soon as he sees that initiative, he picked up a pawn in no time. But unlike yesterday, he converts it.
That was amazing. And that's a great, parallel that you've drawn to that match we watched. And we were concerned because how would Nihal not convert that position? This time, he makes no mistake. He capitalizes. And you can see Giri is just a little frustrated there because he never really set himself up to succeed. That end game was always in Nihal's favor.
Yeah, it almost felt like a turning point. Anish offered a repetition.
Yep.
Nihal declines, and after that moment, he started taking over the game. I wonder, there's a bit of a psychology involved. When Anish is offering the repetition, he probably felt his position was even good, but he was okay with a draw.
And that gives you some confidence as well, right? When the opponent is offering a draw like that or a repetition, they wouldn't be doing that if they liked their game.
No.
And we're straight back into the action, Eric, into game number 2. And, we've talked about how it is a must-win, right? We've seen this situation in so many different matches so far. Actually, a lot of players have delivered in that must-win situation. So question is now, can Anish Giri do it? He came through the last chance qualifier. He's been in this position before. He needs to repeat that performance.
Yeah, this match is featuring 2 players who made it through the gauntlet. They had to take down very tough fields to make it here. So have they been in situations like this before? Yes.
And here we go. Anish Giri with the white pieces. Obviously, the white pieces in chess, you move first, so there is that small advantage, and believe me, it is magnified at the highest levels here. Immediately, what I like about Giri's opening and the way he's decided to play, he has an imbalance. The pawn structure is imbalanced. We have doubled c-pawns here, and we also have an exchange bishop for knight. Imbalances, just give that position a little bit of life. He has something that his opponent does not have. He can try to make use of it and, generate some winning chances just off of that.
One of the standard ideas for white in the structure is to eventually push e4 to e5 on a good day. If you can provoke black to do d takes e5, then black is left with double isolated c-pawns. If you don't get an e5, right now h3, bishop f4, those are standard ideas. If you don't manage to play e5 soon, black will eventually play his own pawn to c5, put that bishop on d7 on the c6 square, and you can see that's a pretty good diagonal. So yes, there's compensation for the fractured pawn structure for black. It's dynamic. It is imbalanced, which favors Anish in terms of what he needs from the game. But often the play revolves around this move pawn e4 to e5. If you can force d takes e5, then you can say, I have a positional advantage, a long-term strategic edge. I expect knight b3 here. Why knight b3 if bishop c6? There's knight a5. Knight f5 is another idea here. And again, dynamic chess. Why? You're allowing doubled pawns, but after bishop takes f5, e takes f5, that queen on f3 is nicely placed to support the move pawn g2 to g4, and you can actually start marching the kingside pawns and grabbing a little bit of space. Your king is not in danger. There's no black pieces that are threatening, and a big decision is Nihal going to give up the bishop pair?
Yeah, and both bishops are potentially at risk. You either give up the light square bishop or the bishop on e7 is probably going to be captured on the next turn. He decides to part with his light squared bishop. In terms of next moves, I was going to say white just wants to bring that rook from a1 to d1. That would really hamper this move. I do think that Nihal picked the right moment to play d5. Because, Eric, if he didn't play d5, rook d1 was coming. Your move g4 and g5. The d5 square was going to be controlled by white for the rest of the game. And if that pawn's on d6, the black bishop has nowhere to go. The pawns are stuck on dark squares, same color as the bishops we have. So I think that move was well-timed by Nihal, and it makes perfect sense. Otherwise, he may have never played it.
Yeah, Nihal, even when he's facing some opening issues, he doesn't get phased. I mean, d5, as you mentioned, critical move, needs to find some space, some stability. And by playing c6, he's taking away a future where we were talking about white could eventually control d5, place a knight there. That's not possible. And now look for the play to follow the e-file. The battle of the e-file is going to take place. Now, black's got a set of double c-pawns, white's got a set of double f-pawns. We could say that's a bit of a push. What's going to be dictated is the rest of the material on the board, and can Anish keep enough play, keep enough imbalance to find something. Because when you double on the e-file as white, which is Anish is doing, you have to anticipate what's Nihal going to play. Maybe queen d7. Why queen d7? Just to play bishop f8 and say, you know what, I'm going to trade everything on the e-file. Where is your advantage?
Yeah, and you know, we will definitely see the follow-up move g4 at some point. I'm thinking from Nihal's perspective, a move that you might consider is more the move c4 rather than d4. d4 pushes the pawn and kind of leaves that hole on the c4 square, has the pawns on dark squares. I think based on the dark square bishops, Black would rather, if he's going to commit one of these pawns forward, play c4. Because the plan for White, you often see, is pawn to b3, the knight moves maybe to a4, and then White plays the move c4 themselves. So look out for the battle of the c4 square, because I think Black wants to play that maybe before White does.
And Nihal plays bishop f8. I think he's just ready to trade a lot on the e-file. But I agree, c4 is strategically much more sound than the d4 move for Black.
Rooks are doubled. You mentioned just, you know, trades all on the e-file, and it's looking very, very likely here. We have to defend the f5 pawn. g4 certainly comes to mind, but, you know, we could also move that bishop. Even a move like bishop e5 or bishop g5, because Black has moved that bishop back to f8, you have an uncomfortable problem to solve. Bishop takes f6. I mean, if you double those pawns, that's a big problem.
Yeah, I don't think Nihal wants to deal with double f pawn, so I'm curious if bishop g5, what he's planning.
Yeah, it's even queen d7, right? It's taking the square that maybe that knight would retreat to. So, yeah, it's actually kind of a difficult decision. You'd never want to bring the bishop back to e7.
Bishop g5 played. We have a threat. Bishop takes f6, and those are tough pawns. Nihal, maybe he's going to play knight e8 here because that's a possibility. Otherwise, you're looking at either rook e8. He's played rook e8, saying, you know what? My pawns are doubled. There's not enough material on the board to take advantage of that. That's an f6 pawn. My king can get close to it. My dark squared bishop can support it. And the question is, how does Anish's knight on c3 join the game? Because now we're really getting close to an endgame. We're just one rook trade away. If I'm playing Black, I might be in a position to trade on e2. I don't want to trade yet because that knight will recapture. Maybe I will, actually. And play queen e7, maybe put the queen on e5. Is this enough for Anish?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, the answer might be no, but I think this is still what Anish wants from the position. It's kind of the maximum that he could extract. I wouldn't be surprised to, you know, see a move like g3, king g2, like these slower moves, even g4 to connect the pawns, but somehow the move g3 makes more sense because I don't like leaving that diagonal open. The bishop d6 move indicates maybe bishop c7 and queen d6 in the future will be played. So I don't really want to open my kingside like that. We've talked about the idea knight a4 and pawn to c4. I think it's important to understand that Black doesn't want to play a move like d4. It'd be a terrible move in this position. It's the light square pawns in Black's position, c6, d5, that are restricting White's knight. On the other hand, Anish Giri, he wants to be putting pawns on light squares like maybe the move c4 around your king, different story.
Yeah, you can take comfort as White knowing with that dark squared bishop on d6, Black will never have enough resources to, for example, overpower the f5 pawn. And outside of the f5 pawn, White doesn't really have any weaknesses, and so he can just maneuver around with the knight for a very long time. The position might be relatively equal, but it's all about extending the game, extending the opportunities, taking the time off the clock. And we know knights and a queen, when you're in a time scramble, that's a very, very dangerous combination. We know that Anish, he understands his time format very well. He's actually very speedy, and he has a firm grasp on practical chess play. So I think even queen and knight versus queen and bishop, which we have on the board, he's okay with.
Yeah, and again, we see knight e2, so finally the knight has relocated. It was terrible on c3. I was considering knight a4, considering even knight d1 to e3. He's gone with knight to e2. The move c4, certainly I would maybe even play right now, but it looks like he's moving the knight out of the way to move the c-pawn, but also to reposition the knight. The move knight f4, not quite possible here because of the f5 pawn, but clearly if this knight makes it to a good square, Eric, the entire endgame will just favor Anish.
An example of a good square is if Black plays d4, going for a protected pass pawn, c6 is loose, but not only that, White's knight can maybe reposition itself on d3. Go to c1, go to d3. So this is a very risky move, but I understand it imbalances the play. You're provoking Black to grab, either go for a protected pass pawn or leave it there. But if you leave the pawn, I mean, I don't think Black's considering taking on c4. That just gives double isolated pawns for Black, long-term weakness. But if Black just leaves it there, he's anticipating in the future, White will take and play knight f4. It's all about the timing. All about the timing. Maybe black just ignores it. If I'm playing black, maybe I just ignore it and I say, you know what, I want you to help me out. But for example, if black plays king g7, I take on d5, you do c takes d5, maybe I have knight c3. And that will force that pawn to push. And as soon as that pawn pushes, that knight on c3 will have excellent squares on either e4 or d5. No matter what, it looks like Anish is going to find an improving square for that knight on e2.
Yeah, and if you're attacking light squares, with Anish's position, he has more firepower at all times on light squares. The bishop can never contribute. So if there's ever a pawn that's being attacked by a pawn and a queen, he has that extra knight to always shift the balance. So there's no way that that pawn will remain on the d5 square. Next move is going to be knight c3, whether he takes on d5 first. And at some point, you're going to be forced to play maybe d4, maybe capture the pawn. All of these are decisions that Nihal does not want to do, but he's faced with the reality that, Eric, it's unavoidable.
Yeah, he's a minute and a half behind on the clock. He goes for the protected pass pawn. It was a tough decision. I think we're really in the critical stage of the game because you can find yourself with a really, really passive position as black. Look at that bishop on d6. Now that black's committed to the structure, that bishop on d6, it's only aimed at the g3 pawn, which is pretty much never a threat. It's blocked by its own pawn on c5. I'd love to move that bishop on d6, get it to a better diagonal. That might mean bishop to c7 to a5. In the meantime, though, white is taking away squares. Why king f1? When you move your knight eventually, you don't want to allow queen e1 check. So after king f1, Anish is ready to potentially play knight c1, knight d3, blockade, and continue to push black backwards.
Yeah, that looks like a great idea. Note that I believe at this point, if the queens were to trade, Eric, it would just be an amazing, amazing endgame for Giri. I don't know 100% if it's winning, but I would say that Giri would take any kind of queen trade at this point. The c5 pawn is on a dark square. It's fixed. It's a target. Same with the f6 pawn. Imagine in the future with the queens off, a knight on e4. An amazing endgame. So he's just going to try to keep everything defended here, and it's easy to do.
Bring the knight in.
Yep.
Bring the knight in. I want to bring the knight to f4. I'm going to bring the knight to f4. I don't know now. That would be going all in, but I'm very tempted to play knight f4, knight h5, set up. He's throwing in the check first.
Yeah, he's forcing the king away.
Very
he
nice.
always wanted to guard that a2 pawn. And look, queen c3 doesn't matter. Every single thing in white's position is defended.
He's provoking black's king to go further away from the center, and that bishop on f8 will be loose in positions with queen e8 coming. And after queen e8, you go king g7, there's knight f4. So right now, Nihal's attacking the a2 pawn, Anish defends. But in a couple of moves, white's threats will be stronger than black's. Just a couple of moves away. Knight on d3. Goes to f4, goes to h5, then you're preparing queen e8, and it looks like there's devastating moves on the back rank.
That's why he played bishop d6. He didn't want to allow knight f4. The bishop is well placed here, and queen e8 for the moment. Remember, any kind of position where you're playing queen e8, maybe queen takes c6.
We have to calculate queen e8, queen c6, you're right.
That's what he's looking at, though, and I think he's interested in that. Nihal wants those complications. He says, you know, here's the invitation. Take that free pawn, you calculate it. He's down on time. He wants Anish to do the work here.
A thing to watch out for here is white can win a pawn in some lines, but black only needs a draw. And so in black's position, you realize your bishop on d6 is going to be chased. Look for the queen on a5 to try to get to c3. Once you get to c3, start harassing that knight on d3 and get towards white's king, because at the end of the day, what do you do with the queen? Try to look for perpetuals. So Nihal, with that queen on c3, hopes to get a position. He doesn't mind losing a pawn for it, where he gets a very, very active queen, and he can start long-term harassing the king on g2, using that d pawn to keep white at bay.
Yeah, and there's an idea maybe to play queen to d1 here. The black queen can't really move anywhere, and then slowly bring the king in. King f3, king e2, defend the knight, and then maybe look for a queen trade. If the queens trade off the board, I really like this game for Giri.
a5 coming in, he wants to play a4, he wants to break up that pawn structure, and even if you don't break up the pawn structure, you trade away one of your weaknesses. So a5 played quickly by Nihal. He realized he was, you know, almost a minute behind on the clock. Good decision. It's up to Anish to figure out, where is that king going on f3? Is it marching up the board to h5?
That's right. It could go full aggression. King g4, king h5. The queen is 100% committed to the queen side now after that move. a5. It can't retreat to a5 and back to d8.
If you're in Anish's shoes, there's a thing you have to accomplish. I don't know how you get there. have to remove the bishop from d6. That knight on d3, if you want to make progress, needs to advance past that. If you can't get that, your plan of going into an endgame is all I see him on. Either remove that bishop so we can play knight f4 and look to attack, or find a way to trade the queens. But by playing a4, Nihal's making it very hard, because even a move like king e2, you want to play queen d2 and trade things off. There's going to be a loose b3 pawn in a lot of these variations, so he's being very frustrating.
Yeah, he's going the other way. If the pawn pushes forward to a3, you have that a2 pawn loose, but it doesn't really matter because black has no way to attack a2 at the moment. So white can sort of keep this formation. He may indeed go king h5. The black queen is totally out of the game. This looks like a crazy king advance, but notice how he's keeping everything on the light squares.
It's a crazy king advance, but I don't see how even the king and the queen can push black's king away. I think everything revolves around freeing up that knight on d3. I like what Nihal's doing right now. I think he's actually made progress in the last few moves. He's harassed the queen side, and he's just made life difficult. Anish's king is on h5. It looks nice, but even if you look at lines with queen g4 check and black moves away, I'm not exactly sure. Is it queen g4 and king h6? Is he really saying, I'm going to march the king down the board and checkmate you? If he is the case, that's spectacular, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, king h6, there's always bishop f8 check once the black king moves away. We do see Nihal bring the queen back. The other thing is the time. While Anish maybe hasn't made total progress, and I agree, Nihal's position has improved, the clocks have gotten lower, and because Anish needs a win in this game, this is all in his favor.
Yeah, the fact that the knight, queen, bishop, queen, they're all on the board, you take this position with a minute on the clock, I favor white significantly. White has easier pre-moves, better minor piece, better endgames, but he still needs to continue what he's doing, prolonging the game, giving Nihal things to think about.
Big question, queen a2 is, because that's a very forcing idea, you allow queen h6. Queen takes f6 maybe, but the queen on a2 can also give a nasty check from behind. Queen e2 check, forking the knight and the king. It's also attacking the f2 pawn. It's attacking the b3 pawn.
The good thing for Anish is he anticipated if queen a2, if he doesn't see anything, he can just play queen d1. Everything's still defended, the game goes on. He just needs to make sure the game goes on. Wait for Nihal to commit something and blunder later on. Right now, Nihal's not making any mistakes, but white can play moves like h3 to h4. Just prolong the game, and there we have it.
We just have to make those quick moves that don't really change the complexion of the position. Again, you mentioned queen a2. Queen back to d1 will be played pretty quickly. And remember, this king can just retreat from the h5 square. Look how much time he's spending.
Nihal has to move. He has to move. He can't fall back another minute because if white wants to prolong the game, he can shuffle the queen. He can also, say, you know what, my king's not doing anything. I'm going to march all the way back. I'm going to go king g4. But Anish doesn't do that.
That's very committal. Wow. He just played g4. That changes everything. He's going g5, Eric.
He recognizes that his king is safe on h5. The only way to checkmate that king, you somehow need to get your king on g7 and get a queen on h6. That doesn't seem possible at all in these positions. So that's a really, really interesting read by Anish, understanding that his king is safe there. And by pushing these pawns on the king's side, that's going to put Nihal under immense pressure.
Well, I know this is not going to happen, Eric, but queen f8, queen g7, and queen g6 actually does lead to a potential checkmate there, sacrificing the queen. So there are ways that things can go wrong, but of course, very unlikely, and that's very hard to orchestrate.
That would be really nice. That's easy to miss, Simon. Yeah, that's right. Queen f8, queen g7, queen g6. Queen b8 played. I wonder, are you going to play g5? The problem is the b3 is hanging. He goes g5 anyways.
This is very committal as well, but remember, he's introducing new threats to the position. All of a sudden, queen e8, you can't bring that king up because there's pawn to f6.
There's threats here, Mon. If you take on b3 in the future, there's queen e8 check. If bishop f8, there might be knight e5. Anisha's banking on his attack working here. He doesn't mind giving up the b3 pawn.
But this is committal, Eric. I thought that he could have shuffled a bit more. Instead, he's turning this game into a bit of a mess.
He could have played queen d1 first. That's right. He's banking on this working, and he's going for it right away. But what is he thinking about? What alternatives are there besides h takes g5?
I mean, I guess f6 could be a consideration. And then, if black takes on h4, maybe queen g4 comes in. So he might feel like this is a moment where he wants to put the move f6 on the board. He also might not be 100% sure of these calculations after h takes g5. Queen takes b3. queen e8, knight e5. You know, black can defend with queen b7. He has to have something.
Anish is behind on the clock now. He had almost a 1 minute time advantage, and I just don't get it.
And the queen can check from behind. Queen b3, queen
absolutely,
d1.
even if you don't find the mate or win, Anish is trying to calculate a win here.
Yeah, he's trying to force a mate.
He doesn't need to do that. He was doing everything right before. Why is he behind on the clock?
This is what I mean.
Completely unnecessary.
Yep,
maybe
it didn't have to
maybe
happen.
queen c8. That's a tricky move. If hg5, there's queen h3 mate. Nihal sees the clocks. He's evened up, but he's got one goal. Don't fall for checkmate, because now, as time is more equal, we've seen him play endgames, we've seen him play time scrambles. He's pretty good if he's even on the clock.
I wonder how the move queen g4 here is. It's probably not the best move, but it might be the move that you default to just out of a safety perspective. He goes queen f3. I don't mind this at all.
I agree. I don't think you want to trade and lose the pawn if you can keep it. But Anish needs to play these moves faster. They're down to about 30 seconds each. Can Anish Giri use his king and queen and pawns to checkmate Nihal Sarin? It's a must-win game here.
It is, and the clock is 30 seconds apiece. He's retreating the king. He wants to solidify things.
There's
with
problems
maybe f4
here.
in the future.
There's problems here. Nihal has a setup. His bishop on f8. He's going to put the queen on e6. Where's the breakthrough for Anish? His king is moving backwards. He's down 5 seconds. This isn't going to cut it.
Queen e4, maybe centralize the queen, take away all the squares in the position. Remember, the queen cannot activate to h3.
So queen e4, queen d7 maybe, knight e5, queen e6. Both players need to transition to bullet mode right now.
Yep. I would consider even, okay, knight e5, that could be a good move.
There might be knight takes f7 some lines, or there's, oh, this is tricky, Amon.
Queen b3, he's going for it. You mentioned
What's
knight
the
f7.
move?
It could be it.
He's going for queen e8, but
Well,
can Nihal
queen
tickle
d1.
the king from behind?
Yeah, queen, how do you
12
even get
seconds,
behind?
he has to start pre-moving.
This is all
Where's
about the
move?
checks.
Where's the time? What is that? What is that move?
It doesn't do anything.
That's a terrible
my
move. Nihal
goodness.
just blunders everything. He's down a queen here. Anish Giri with 8 seconds just needs to not flag.
This is 100% over. The pieces are all on light squares. He's got the conversion. Be careful of stalemate.
What is he doing? Yeah, checkmate. He's just pre-moving. He's just pre-moving. He's not even going to go for checkmate. He's just pre-moving here.
It should
Just
be all
pre-move
on light squares,
That's
and
right.
that's the way to do it. He actually gives away his queen there.
Wait, yeah,
There's still time.
He's got to move. He gets the pre-move.
Oh my goodness. That
oh my
is
goodness.
insane.
What did I just see? Anish pre-moved queen h5.
He
Nihal
lost
catches
his
it,
queen.
and he lost all his pawns.
But Eric,
he lost all of his pawns. What did I just see?
He could have put the king near the pawn to just protect it.
Anything. King on light squares in. Amon, I mean, I was calling the game is over. We thought it was over.
I can't believe what we just saw. It is 2-0. S8UL Esports wins the match. Nihal and the players are having a smile about that one. Eric, I can't believe that might be the most insane finish we've seen thus far.
I mean,
or we will ever see.
We've spoken about Nihal under 10 seconds, but again, this was really poor play from Anish. He's up a queen, up on time. It was 8 seconds to 7 seconds, and he decides to somehow find a way to lose all of his pieces.
Here's the
Just
thing,
shocking.
Eric. It's unforgivable because the queen is on a light square, so it can't be attacked by
There's
anything.
no reason to throw that
So
move
you don't
in.
even need to move it. You could move your king exclusively for the rest of the game, but Nihal, you know, we can't extend full credit to him because guess what? He should have still flagged that game. He took the queen, and then he still orchestrated the quickest possible way to capture every single pawn on the board, even though, I mean, he actually won the game, but a draw would have been enough, Eric.
I'm speechless, Amon. There's been countless games here where I was certain a player was going to win, and they lost. This is the reality of 10-minute chess with no increment. You see that the players, some of them are inexperienced in some of these time scrambles, and it's really showing.
Oh my goodness. That will probably be the craziest finish that we're going to see. And this is chess meets esports. Eric, I have no words because Anish Giri should have 99, even 100 times out of 100 won that game. And this should be a tied match right now. So, Eric, I mean, what do you even make of this? It's shocking.
It's shocking. I actually thought the game was over when Anish threw the queen in, and the pieces kept moving. I was like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, Nihal's captured every single pawn. He's eliminated. I mean, Anish Giri is the first man out for our broadcast.
It's true. Anish Giri eliminated, and probably from a position that you could never, ever predict that he'd be eliminated from. The extra queen, he was also briefly up on time as well. Extra time, the queen. And the reason that it's so shocking to the viewers out there is because the queen was on a light square. And the bishop for Nihal was on a dark square. So it's actually impossible for the bishop to ever take the queen. It's impossible for the king to ever take the queen. So nothing could have gone wrong unless he did it to himself.
He had no passed pawns either. So there's no threats.
There was no moves.
And Aman, you know, he knows, he has lots of videos online. You just shuffle the king around on the light squares.
Yes.
And the game is over. And you can throw in a check with the queen.
Sure.
Just throw it in at a distance.
Yeah, backwards moves so that you're moving away from the pieces. But, you know, we can sit here and break down why that shouldn't have happened. But at the end of the day, it did. And we can still say that Nihal was right place, right time. He had the wherewithal to capture that queen, Eric, and still make 8 other moves to capture every single pawn and ensure that he got the points he needed to win that match. That's also impressive.
It feels like redemption for Nihal. He was in this position yesterday. He was winning against Arjun. He lost a completely winning position on the clock that if you asked us, we probably would say this is 99% a winning position for Nihal. Now he's on the other side. He takes Arjun's place in the sense he wins a dead loss position on the clock and he stays in the tournament.
Wow. And for it to happen at the end of the game like that, I mean, this is something that you never would expect from like two of the best players, right? 2 elite players, and they're out there shuffling their pieces. It is absolute madness that this game ended that way. But for Nihal, what a huge win. He's moving on, right? And he will be taking on Maxime Vachier-Lagrave.
Yeah, this is one of his debuts in super tournaments, and look at that.
Absolutely crazy. We're still in shock here on the desk, Eric. Like, I mean, I don't think that I could have ever expected that in general, but also when we were immersed in the game and calling it live, there was just no way because Giri had done such a great job bringing it back. He was earning that 1-1 and being that clutch player. I thought we were going to Armageddon for sure, but Nihal Sarin is moving on.
Nihal Sarin's moving on. Anish, during his flight back, he's going to be thinking about all those possibilities. That's the brutal reality of this format, but that's why we like it.
Yep.
That's why I think it's good for spectators. That's why I think the players can enjoy it because almost every player has an experience on the good side and on the bad side. Winning a lost position or losing the most winning position. Even the audiences can relate to that. I think we like the chaos.
We do, I'm sure. You know, it's going to sting, but as you mentioned, Eric, you know, even in the last chance qualifier, both of these players, they have been on both sides, not just in their careers, but probably in the last week. So this is something that they know, you know, you live and die by the sword. That's the best part about this format here at the Esports World Cup. You have no increment, and we get to see absolute madness like this from the best players in the world.
Yeah, chess is a long game, long history, but I think almost the motto for this tournament is expect the unexpected.
Yeah. Yeah, truly. We're sitting here casting, and you know, how could we possibly ever predict that this could happen? He was down on time as well.
There was a check. He could have just won by checkmate too.
There's
because
so many possibilities.
But you know, that's chess. That's under 10-second chess, and we have to say Nihal under 10 seconds has clearly proven his nerves, his pre-move anticipation, everything is really top notch.
You know, it's another thing. He's continuing to play that game. A lot of other players in this tournament, Eric, they might not have even played it out. It was about 9 seconds when it was queen against bishop. That's enough for, I think, a few players in this event to maybe just give it up.
Well, Anish resigned in the first game when they both had 8 seconds.
Exactly, and look what happened when he actually played it on. As you know, we can see here, moving on is Nihal Sarin, so eliminating Anish Giri from the Esports World Cup. That's Team Secret eliminated, and moving on in Group B to the decider match is Nihal Sarin. He's going to have a tough match, Eric, up against MVL in the next one. I mean, we're starting to get to the point where it's like, can he keep getting away with it? We're going to hear from Nihal himself. He's there with James Candy.
Nihal Sarin, congratulations. You've made it through with a match with MVL here. So you're so fast, man. Like, how are you so fast? That was incredible at the end there. I'm checking my pockets to make sure I still have everything myself. You are so fast, Nihal. Congratulations.
Thank you, but okay, this game, I really don't want to take any credit. Like, I was just 100% or if more lucky. Like, okay, Anish played an incredible game. Like, I think it was very hard to control my counterplay, and he did it in such an expert way. I was always looking to just get the queen in and like finish the game.
Yeah.
But he always kept finding a way. Like, he took his time. He always kept finding a way to keep my counterplay out, and in the end, okay, when it got into a scramble, I had even a bit more time. I started to feel more confident, but he still kept playing extremely good chess, and and finally his quality pushed through. He just won my queen, and he was also playing very fast. Like, okay, I could have easily resigned just because I just played for a few more moves. Like, yeah, I don't know, it just complete brain fade. It can happen. It's like the only explanation for this is it can theoretically happen.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm sorry about that, but yeah. Okay.
But you made it through. So do you feel like this format, you mentioned in the videos before, we have some content for the viewers about you being an underdog. Do you feel like this format actually helps you be even stronger than you usually would?
It's complicated. Probably yes. I mean, because I guess I do have an advantage over most players in an absolute wild scramble, because okay, I've played more bullet than most people, like except Alireza Hikaru probably, and yeah, that for sure gives me an advantage. But also, I don't think it's so huge because there's still 10 minutes you need to hold on, and also the whole time management changes. Like, you cannot spend all your time early to try to solve your problem. I mean, how much ever speed you have, you will flag. So
yeah.
I mean, so yeah.
Absolutely. Congratulations. You have another match coming up, so good luck to you.
Thank you.
Back to you guys.
Thank you very much, James, with our interview. And wow, what a game by Nihal Sarin. I mean, that end was crazy.
Absolutely insane what we just witnessed. That looked like a 100% win for Anish. He was up on time. He had an extra queen. He first hung the queen, but still after that, I believe he should have won the game. Because when Nihal took it, Nihal had like 0.8 seconds. Anish still had 3 pawns on the board. Had he just hung on to the pawns, he should have definitely flagged Nihal there.
But it really goes to show how strong of a bullet player Nihal Sarin is. He said it himself. He's played probably more bullet than all the other players here, except for, well, Alireza and Hikaru and the like. But that was absolutely crazy from Nihal Sarin, SHUL Esports. And we will be right back very soon.
There's a lot of pressure on my shoulders to make my mom and dad proud.
It's the best feeling watching him live out his dream.
It's this pressure that you have on you that if you don't win, you lose your job.
Kita udah nunjukin kalau ladies itu juga tetap bisa bersaing di scene cowok.
No big deal, just the hopes and dreams of thousands of supporters riding on one kid's split-second decisions and lightning-fast hands.
You can do this. I believe in each and every one of you, but the mission's not done.
You want to make a run at the title, you have to run a gauntlet of competition.
Competing at this level comes with a lot of sacrifice.
The thing is about these top teams, it's win or bust.
For some of these players, that's their life.
Welcome to the Esports World Cup.
This is the Super Bowl, the World Cup, and the Olympics, all rolled into one event for the first time ever.
We are coming for you.
If you're betting against me, that's going to wake me up and get me to playing best I can.
I fucking got the shit. You heard that? Nothing is granted. Everything is earned.
Is your job on the line?
I believe it's on the line, as it should be.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. Esports World Cup. We just had a very crazy match there. That was incredible there. Nihal was very, very fast here, and Anish Giri was eliminated. I am FIDE Master James Cantor III here, joined by WGM Nemo and Grandmaster Benjamin Bot. Guys, that was a crazy match. Nihal incredibly fast.
Nihal so fast. So fast, in fact, that he managed to win the game against Anish with only 0.8 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, no, that was absolutely incredible. Like when Anish hung a screen, like I said, Nihal took it, had 0.8 seconds in, and that was just enough time for him to capture all of the pawns and at least secure the job, but he even won the game on time in the end. It's good for Nihal that there's a little bit of a break before his match against MVL, like gives him some time to catch his breath, really. I mean, that game was insane.
Yeah, absolutely. It was super fast here. Nemo, what are your thoughts on the match?
I mean, I bet Anish really wished that he went for a flag in the very first game because he did have, well, sort of even on time, 8 seconds left on the clock. Sure, he didn't have the best position, but at the end of the day, you have to take your chances when you can get them, and there's always tricks in the first game, like there was F4 perhaps.
Yeah, I'd say with the no increment, just never resign. We really saw that in the last game. You could say, like, well, Nihal's down a queen, he's down on time, why does he not resign? But things can happen. I mean, the pressure is huge to this tournament. Perhaps that's what got to Anish in the end. So how do you guys think, how do you think Nihal will fare against MVL on this one?
Oh, yeah, of course. He's momentum, I think. Very momentum driven here. Actually, let's take a look at this head-to-head. Look at the World Rapid ranking there. 25 and 12 score, 13 and 7. That's pretty close. Okay, obviously almost double, but at the same time, he has and he's capable of beating him. Nihal, that is. Scoring Classical, haven't played. That's hard to even believe that they haven't played any Classical chess as well. And rating within 100 points there. So Nihal is capable of doing it. He just was able to knock down Anish here, and now he's going to try to take on MVL. What do you think about this, Nemo?
I do want to say that Nihal is quite young, not saying that Maxime is old or anything, but a little younger than Maxime. And, you know, the scoring rapid might not be an accurate representation of actually how they would play now, because it has been a couple of years and he has grown so much as a player, but not just grown so much as a player, he's really grown as a bullet player as well. I mean, we heard in the interview that he did with James over here how much he likes this time control. So with this time control, with the 10-0, with the no increment, rapid is, you know, traditionally played with a little bit of increment. Not always, obviously, but 10-0 I think makes this a completely different game.
Yeah, no, I think the time control definitely gives Nihal a bit of an advantage. I mean, as we saw in pure time scrambles, he's extremely fast, can really beat anyone. However, as he also said himself, time management is really important. He cannot fall too far behind on the clock. I think MVL will try to pressure him on the clock, and Nihal perhaps will try to make a comeback at the end. In my book, I think MVL is definitely a favorite in this one. He's played some really strong chess, whereas Nihal has won his matches, but it's been shaky.
I absolutely believe that too as well. It's been slightly shaky here, but sometimes, as you know, as a player, if you are a little shaky, you notice that. You know, my form's not the greatest, but now we try to make that shift, that mental shift, and like, okay, you know what, I got to lock in, especially in this being a decider match. Winner will be eliminated here. Maybe he steps it up a little bit here, and MVL understands that too. So I think we are in for some very exciting chess, but also the nerves and the psychology come into play too, understanding how much is on the line, right, Emo?
Do you guys think that maybe he's already played 2 games, he might be tired, or do you think that will actually help him in this upcoming match against MVL because he's warmed up now? He's played 2 games against Anish. They've gone down to the very last seconds in both of these games, basically taking full advantage of having 10 minutes on the clock. Do you think it's going to be actually better for him that he just played, or maybe a little tired?
I think it'll be an advantage for him. He's warmed up. He must be feeling pretty good right now after winning that match against Anish. Like you said, he might be a little tired, but it was not like a 4 or 5 hour match, right? It was like 40 minutes tops. So I think the fact that he's warmed up will give him a slight advantage.
Absolutely. I think the same as well. Here we go. Nihal Sarin, as you see, he's ready to go there, locked in. My man's is stoic and very, very kind as well, but not kind on the chess board. Bach, what do you think his strengths and weaknesses are?
I'd say his strengths are definitely, again, his resourcefulness, his speed at the very end. I'd say his weaknesses, perhaps time management. He often falls behind on the clock. Openings, he can also be struggling a little bit. So I think, once again, MVL will try to put on the pressure with white. Yeah, he'll try to put pressure in the opening, also on the clock. And I'm really curious to see how Nihal will deal with that.
I think it's really interesting that Nihal struggles a little bit with time management, but he is also an insanely fast bullet player. Now, of course, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave.
MVL.
MVL, not new to this game.
MVP. That's what they know. But at the same time, the Frenchman, very, very strong here. Team vitality. He is going to try to win against Nihal here. But as you see, guys, they are ready to go. And we're going to say bye to our analysts for now. They will be back. Shout out to WGM, Nemo, and Grandmaster Benjamin Bach. Now we have coming up our casters calling all the shots. Grandmaster Amon Hamilton and Grandmaster Eric Hansen. What's up, boys? We got another one.
We are getting right into the action here, and it's actually featuring the same player, right? Nihal Sarin playing back-to-back matches. Eric, at this point, you just have to wonder, is he going to keep doing it? It feels like he's on a magical run right now.
I think he's going to keep doing it, but I can tell you if he has the same position against MVL, MVL's not going to let him off the hook. I think what we witnessed was almost a once-in-a-lifetime situation.
Yep, it really feels that way. So we got to, settle down. We're into the next match. This is a decider match as well. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, Team Vitality. This is going to be a big one, Eric, because, they've played before, but Maxime probably coming in feeling like the favorite as well. Nihal has played some more matches as well. And let's get right into things. This is an E4, E5 game. Knight E7, Knight G6. A little bit unusual. More standard would be the knight coming to F6, but Knight G6, definitely seen before.
Definitely seen before. It's become quite trendy in speed chess. One of the ideas in the future is Black, after they castle, is actually willing to take on D4. The reason Black's willing to take on D4 is he's going to immediately respond. E takes D4, C takes D4 with a break, pawn D7 to D5. And you notice that bishop on A7, it's not normally there in some of these Roy Lopez's. It puts pressure on the center.
Yeah, bishop G5, F6. Pretty much a forced move at that point because the queen was stuck on D8. And you're definitely not going to take the knight you just put on G6 and put it back.
And we see why you provoke F6. Now that D5 move isn't as strong because there could be a pin on that king on G8, Black's queen. White's job is to make either D5 or F5 for Black hard to accomplish.
And F5 would be, a desirable move because it helps that bishop on C8 get involved. Right now, the move bishop to G4, not that effective because we can just play H3. If you're MVL, you respond H3 to bishop G4, and what happens is the bishop can't retreat back to H5. It would get trapped because there is a knight on G6. So a few differences in this position to maybe a more standard conventional setup.
Yeah, we're going to see a prolonged tension, I think, in the middle. You don't really want to ever do D takes E5 as white. Why? Because Black recaptures F takes E5. That rook on F5 all of a sudden has the F file. And even trading off dark squared bishops doesn't necessarily help white. Those are good bishops to trade off. And then you'll notice Black's remaining pawns in the center on dark squares. It's not that easy to break. White needs what white wants. Eventually, keep the tension and hope that Black has to play E takes D4, then you recapture, then you have some squares. So in the future, I want to go knight D2 to F1 to G3, maybe queen D2, rook A1, eventually creep towards the king side.
Yeah, and actually it's kind of reminding me of a game that we casted earlier, Eric, with Duda playing with the black pieces, where we might see a lot of maneuvering. We have a really, really solid structure. The pawns from C7 up to E5, all the way down to G7. It's a really, really strong formation, but at the same time, you can't really do anything with it, right? You can't play F5 yet. You can't play D5. You don't want to take in the center. So the pawns look great, but they're probably not going to move for a while, which means we're going to see a lot of maneuvering.
I mentioned that generally white doesn't want to trade the dark squared bishops, but if you think in a few moves, Black completes development. If Black ever shifts that rook on A8 to D8, then white's looking for the right time to move that D pawn because then the bishop on A7 will be loose.
Yeah, and actually that's a great point because immediately if white plays rook A1, Black plays rook A8, you can grab the pawn in the middle of the board, D takes E5. If the bishop from A7 that's loose captures on E3, you can take back potentially with the pawn, right? F takes E3, hits the knight on F4. It's a perfect example of what you were highlighting.
I have to say, this kind of position probably favors both players, but White's certainly happy to have a position, all the pawns, all the pieces on the board. This isn't some sort of equal drive position. A lot can happen here. And one of the ideas for White is to play knight to f5. At the right moment, you see that queen on e8, you see your rook on e1. When you play knight f5, you're trying to induce bishop takes f5, e takes f5, because then all of a sudden there might be a pin on the e file that you can take advantage of.
That's right, and we see exactly that move played. Rook d8 played quickly. Because the knight's on f5, things are a little bit more loose than before, but you know, I have to be looking at that move, d takes e5, that we were mentioning earlier.
Yeah, there's a bunch of pins. That move might have worked, but Black was also preparing his own bishop takes f5 in certain lines, hitting the queen on d2. So Maxime plays rook a1, and I think he's planning on playing either queen c2 or queen c1 next. Nihal plays bishop b8, getting out of that idea.
Yep, exactly. And things are starting to shift. You notice how there's not really any action on the queen side here. Players are moving the pieces towards the center, but there's also still a lot of potential on the king side. I look at that knight on f4, and it's always about removing the knight. The knight on f5 can't be removed that easily. Black would have to move the knight on g6 away, but it needs to be there to support the knight on f4. For White, on the other hand, the move g3 is exactly how I want to remove that knight. Whether I play it right away, Eric, or play king h2 and then g3, I think we'll see that soon.
I think we'll see that soon, and that's why he played d5. He sees if your king goes to h2 with that bishop on b8, maybe Black plays c6 or d5, looking to get a discovered attack on the king. When you play d5, now you can play king h2, and you're not worried about that bishop on b8 being a problem. So Maxime grabs the space, Nihal goes knight back, and I have to say, the last few moves to me indicate White is doing well. When Black invests time to put a knight on f4 and you don't even have to spend g3 to kick it out, that has to be a plus.
Absolutely. He's removing itself from the great f4 square. Now, it probably would have happened anyway, king h2 and g3, but look at the quality of the pieces now. The bishop on b8. We don't even need to compare it to the bishop on e3. It's obvious. The bishop on b8 is trapped. That was also why Maxime pushed the pawn into the center with d5. Wanted to prevent maybe c6 and d5 from happening from Nihal to free that bishop. The knight on h5, pretty much trapped on the side of the board. Eric, the quality of the pieces here, it doesn't feel equal at all. A huge advantage here for Maxime, and he's not up any material. This is just purely a positional and strategic advantage.
Yeah, that bishop on b8's a bad piece. I don't see how you correct that. At some point, you're looking at the move c6 as Black. You need to fight for a space, you need to open things up. But when you play c6, d6 becomes a serious target. Not only that, when you push your pawn to c6, the b6 square gets weakened too. Maybe White places a bishop there. And look at g4, things are getting sharp.
Oh yeah.
Where's that knight on f4 going, Aman? I can move my knight back to g3. If you ever take on g3, I do f takes g3, the knight on f4 is trapped. This is a critical position for Nihal because he's really lacking oxygen in the position.
Yeah, and we could see g3 was about to be played, and then as soon as the knight jumped in f4, it's actually g4. The knight on h5 is trapped no matter what, and the knight on f4 now took the only available square. g6 is a desperate move, but I love your suggestion. Just drop that knight back. It moves to g3. If it's taken, we take back, and well, you're probably going to have to play knight g7, right, in order to avoid that. But if you drop the knight to g7, there's many moves to play, Eric, but right in front of us is just a free pawn. Bishop takes on f4.
It's more of a free pawn than you might expect because the bishop on b8 isn't in the game. I would be a little hesitant of giving up my dark squared bishop if Black had a good dark squared bishop.
Right.
Black does not have a good dark squared bishop. MVL is doing well here, but we know that Nihal is such a resourceful player. He puts the bishop on a7. He admits, I probably don't have full compensation, but I best place my pieces on good squares. Now that you don't have a dark squared bishop, my bishop goes back to a7. Long term, it's going to put pressure on that diagonal, and it's up to MVL to figure out how can I contain that dark squared bishop and still keep pushing forward.
And at the end of the day, the bishop on a7 is finally active again. So Nihal, it actually seemed, Eric, that he was going to lose a pawn regardless. But in the end, it's kind of the best case scenario because, yes, he was going to lose that, but the bishop on a7 is actually a very decent piece now. I would expect White to probably improve that light squared bishop, maybe bishop c2. You could also bring the knight on f3 into d4 just to block that diagonal that the dark squared bishop for Nihal is on. But we have a different game here, and I do think that Nihal is objectively going to be happier with his position now than it was before because at some point it felt like none of his pieces could move.
Yeah, his position wasn't good before. This is an easier to play position, but I still think there's serious issues. The knight on g7 doesn't have a lot. When you see the move knight to d4, Black's not in a position to really trade anything off. He's down an entire pawn here. I don't like the move bishop c2. I understand that maybe MVL is worried about Nihal eventually playing f5 and trying to blast things open. But counterintuitively, I actually thought that was fine for Maxime. He's up a pawn and he could actually afford some trades because that bishop on a7, what it means is in certain positions when Black plays f5, White may have the e5 move. That bishop is not on b8. It's going to be very sharp. That probably favors Nihal because he knows he's already down a pawn. He's going to embrace a sharp position. But I don't like the bishop going on c2 because there's so many lines where I'm worried about my d pawn hanging. Black is looking to support, play f6 to f5, blast things open. You see queen g8, why queen g8? When you play f5, you want that rook on f8, targeting the queen on f4.
Yep, and the queen on g8 still hits the d5 pawn, which is the main thing that gets weak. As soon as you play f5, if you play e takes f5, capturing from the center, the d pawn suddenly becomes loose. So there's a lot of ways that you can connect to those ideas. And, of course, other than f5, there really isn't a big plan for Nihal. The knight on g7, you look, it's 100% trapped. I think that MVL is making almost all his moves against that one plan. But the question, Eric, is he actually preventing it?
No, I think MVL is actually going the wrong plan here. I still like his position, but I liked his knight on f3. I don't think he needed to put the knight to d4, king g2, right beside the f2 pawn. You don't need to worry about that. I like the knight on f3. Why the knight on f3 and the queen on f4? I can place my queen on h6. I thought MVL could have placed his queen on h6, put his knight on f3, and then look towards knight h4 or g5, some breaks. The knight on g7 is a poor piece. It can't harass the queen when it gets on h6. MVL here is playing some other moves, but you push those pawns forward. At some point, they could become weak. I think if I'm in MVL's shoes, I don't want this position with 2 minutes on the clock.
Right.
Because then the pressure is on you to convert, and you have to always watch out for the tactics. And there are going to be lots of tactics. It all surrounds whether or not Black can play the f5 move. I don't want to have low time on the clock when f5 is eventually played.
And it's looking more and more likely because f5 also will open the g file potentially. And if the queen on g8 is very, very well placed against the king on g2.
He has to start making progress here. MVL has not made progress, in my opinion, in the last 5 moves. The queen should be back on f4. The knight should be back on f3. Sure, his pieces look okay right now, but they're not pushing Black at all. Nihal's getting away with the position with the queen on g8. He's not under any pressure. He's down a pawn, but he doesn't feel like he's down a pawn because White's not using that extra pawn to grab space.
Yep.
You need pawns to push forward and take away squares. Look at this, the knight on h5. It didn't have a square before. It was on g7 stuck. Now the h file is open. The bishop on
coordination
d7.
is beautiful.
Nihal is coming back in this game, and I'm really starting to like his position.
Yep.
MVL has not made progress for a long time.
No, if anybody's position is improving, it's Nihal's. The rook on e5, flexible to recapture on h5. He's probably at the point, Eric, where he's even considering queen takes on h5, offering a queen trade while down a pawn. That's how good his position is, how much it's improved over the last couple moves. I still think that rook takes h5 is the right idea. I'm also wondering, at what point is Maxime starting to get concerned here? Because the bishops are just looking really scary. The h3 pawn is a huge target in the position. Yes, he can defend it. Rook g3, bring the rook to g1, but all of a sudden, feels like he's on the defensive.
He's on the defense because he hasn't done anything. He's actually shuffled his king to g2, to h2, and when we're looking at these rook takes h5 positions, I don't even know if I want my king on h2 because, as you mentioned, that pawn is pinned. White needs to incorporate this bishop on c2 in the game. Even the knight on d4, it looks pretty there, but it's not helping defend. It's not going to e6. He's not converting. He's not putting Nihal under pressure. I think at the right moment, MVL is looking towards knight e6. Knight e6, shutting off that light squared bishop. Then you don't have to worry about h3. Then you get a passed pawn there if Black takes, and your bishop on c2 goes to b3. He's realized it because the last 5-10 moves have not been good.
And you know what? This might have been a move born of desperation. Oh, this is how I block the bishop from attacking my h3 pawn. But it's great for him. It's worked out. It's one of the best moves in the position, and it's really hard to avoid capturing. So yes, you need to take it. Yes, there's opposite bishops, but Eric, this game is far from drawn, far from equal. I think you can play bishop b3, but more importantly, rook d to g1, put some pressure on the g6 pawn. You're trying to force maybe g5 to be played, and the light squares become even weaker.
Yes, if you weaken the light squares, that light squared bishop will become only stronger. I do want to play bishop b3. I want to play king g2, but I think first things first, why not defend the e6 pawn?
Yeah, bishop b3 certainly does that. Queen g4 as well. But, you know, these moves are a little bit slower. You have to watch out long range for your f2 pawn. h4.
You know what? This is impressive. I said bishop b3. MVL recognizes you're going to attack my pawn on h3 by placing your queen on h6. Now my rooks are set up properly. I'm going to attack you.
h4 looks incredibly strong. I mean, first glance, queen takes h4, loses. You can play rook to h3. And if pawn takes, I mean, just the move rook to g6 alone is really scary. Now, before you can do anything here, Eric, you have to get rid of that pin. So rook h3, exactly. You have to get rid of the queen, pressuring the king on h2. Now the threat is obvious. Pawn takes on g5. He's looking to trade everything off.
G to g3 is an interesting move here, because then you're ready to take on g5. Maybe Nihal plays queen g6. So rook g1 to g3, maybe bishop b3 first, but all of a sudden MVL has the initiative.
Yeah, and he's playing really well at this point. All it took was that idea, knight e6. Once he played that, everything sort of fell into place. I do think that queen g6 makes sense, because otherwise, the only move to keep the h-file closed, Eric, is pawn to g4. It's just a ridiculous move, but what else do you do?
You have to play queen g6. You can't give up a second pawn.
There you go. We're wondering whether he's going to take right away. You know, another move that's on my mind is king g2, just to shuffle the king over, get off those dangerous lines, protect f2, but he's got all the time in the world right now.
I really want to defend f2 because I never want this bishop on a7 to get into the game.
Yep.
We can't allow it to take on f2. Then it starts harassing the pieces. As long as that bishop, it's looking pretty on a7, but at the end of the day, black is down a pawn, white's queen, 2 rooks are all in the game. I see a deficit here that's going to be very hard to come back from.
Yeah, and one of the moves I was considering next was, let's move the queen. I'm not sure where. Maybe queen d3, queen g4, and play f4. It's the only other move that we haven't really activated. And I tell you, the rook on e5 is the main piece I want to get rid of.
MVL saying, I have safety on the light squares. If you give me a check on g1, I play king e2. This is a sharp way of dealing with it. It might not be the most precise, but the players are low on time. And look at that, rook check.
Oh, that's a huge move. That's a huge move. Rook g2, long range, the bishop from a7. We were saying you can't let it activate. Indirectly, it has. It's part of the position now.
I think
rook g2.
You might have to play rook g3 here. Can you really afford to allow rook takes f2? I said we didn't want the bishop on a7 in the game. It's in the game now. MVL's missed this move. And if rook g3 is played, that forces an opposite bishop endgame potentially.
Yeah, and I think he might have to do it. Now, you could allow rook takes f2 without your queen there, but okay, rook h6.
What a find. It keeps the queens on the board.
That's huge. I still think insane progress from Nihal. He's made a big comeback.
He's made a big comeback. His goal is to make sure white's queen never penetrates and coordinates with the e6 pawn to set up a mating net.
Yep.
That's not very easy to do. With the queen on h6, Nihal could have played king e7. He's playing queen h5 check, asking. If you play f3, that's only strengthening the dark squares for Nihal. Then he'll play queen back to h6.
Yep.
He's provoking f3, then he goes queen h6. Then look at that e3 square.
Exactly. You want that pawn on f2 here, so you have to move your king. Of course, there's queen f3, but the reason we're not even considering this is if you trade queens, Eric, I think we're basically progressing to a position that has an amazing chance to just be a draw. Instead, he's going with the king into the center. King d3. This shows that he's playing for a win.
I think he might play c4 here, but then there might be queen b. Is queen b6 playable?
Queen b6, yeah, c5.
Queen e5 is good, actually. That's just as, it's even better. It defends f6, and you're looking at that d4 square.
Oh, this is trouble now. The queen is getting involved. Queen d4 is there. Even, I mean, queen g6 has to happen before white's making a threat. You're also hitting the e-pawn.
There's no time here. Nihal can start checking on the back. Is MVL going for a king walk, just like Anish?
Yeah, and remember, this is going to be very effective on the light squares. That's the thing about opposite bishops. Great control of the dark squares for black, the opposite for white. He also has c4 and e7 check at some point to open the diagonal.
But there's no immediate threat yet for MVL, so maybe Nihal plays a move like queen d2. And queen e2 is played because you recognize queen g6 doesn't work. There's queen takes f2. What kind of waiting move, what kind of stabilizing move can MVL play here?
He plays e7. I was wondering if, okay, queen g7 is the obvious follow-up, but also the move c5 is in the position.
Yeah, you
it
can't
locks
play
the
king
bishop
e6.
out.
You can't play king e6.
Yep, I love the move c5. Right now, it locks
And here
the bishop
comes c5,
out.
and
There's no queen takes
threats.
f2.
How do you stop? Okay, so after d takes c5, I think what is the move? Is it queen f7 check and bishop e6? You can take pawns with check. All of a sudden, the tables have flipped. The question is, can MVL dodge the checks?
Okay, he found a way to trade takes on c5, but the
MVL
two pawns connected, Eric.
It's even material, but it's, as you said, it's about the connected pawns. Can Nihal defend what looks to be a very tough position with 33 seconds?
And Eric, I know we're not this far ahead right now, but the A pawn and the bishop coordinate perfectly on the A8 square. It's the correct color, which means if the bishop sacrifices for the two pawns here, oh my goodness, we just got a lot of moves. C2, there's king, D3.
Oh, MVL. No, Nihal's found a concrete line.
What a save.
You have to play bishop c2 here, but then there's no time.
But how is the time working out? Because MVL can flag this, and he's most certainly will.
He's up 15 seconds. He's got split pawns. Nihal has no counterplay.
I think this could be a win, but Nihal, this is where he thrives, Eric. You literally cannot count him out after what we just saw.
He's down 13 seconds, but look at the way he's playing. Is he going to march down the board?
I wonder. He can also
He can't go too far.
Yeah.
He can't allow that A-pawn to push.
King D5, he's not letting the king get around. Now with the pawn push, this is different. He's going after the pawn. Are we going to see a flag
MVL
take
has
place?
to flag him. He's got 10 seconds. Nihal's down to 8 seconds, but he's pre-moving like a madman.
Yeah, if he makes 50 moves, he can earn a draw. He's found the perfect repetition.
Well,
what?
MVL,
What was that?
What is he doing? Well, he could have kept playing him on. He could have made things hard. If Nihal had the other position, he would have looked for every single tricky move, and he would have started moving his king to chase away the bishop. There's no risk. There's no reason at all to push the pawn when you're up time, and you can't even lose the game. Even
Exactly.
There's no way to possibly lose the game.
The game ends in a draw after all of that. And Eric, I think we're right to be critical. You know, this is the Esports World Cup. There's no increment. He definitely could have brought his bishop to defend that pawn. Then that would free his king to move around the board. The reason that Nihal was able to pre-move so successfully is he found two squares that were 100% safe. He went back and forth, and he was going to do that the rest of the game. But MVL could have moved his king in order to prevent that and cause Nihal to think again and spend more time.
No, for sure. This shows, I mean, Nihal's experience in online chess. He's pulling points out of nowhere.
Yeah, incredible. Pulling points that you would never believe are possible. That was a draw out of nowhere. It looked lost earlier, and then it looked like it should have been a flag.
Yeah, I think we can be very critical of MVL. There's two stages of that endgame that we probably would have disagreed with. When he had the two pawns versus one, he could have waited longer before trading off one of them. Then at the final stage, there's absolutely no reason, if it's a draw by 50 moves, force your opponent to survive 50 moves.
Yeah.
Don't push the pawn to e7. There's absolutely no benefit at all.
Because he knows that his opponent, Nihal, is pre-moving to the e7 square.
Yes.
So that pawn push accomplishes nothing.
No, it's the only thing Nihal's pre-moving. And as you mentioned, okay, well, we're going straight to game two. First game was a tie. Now Nihal Sarin will have the white pieces against MVL. Loser goes home.
And Eric, this is a decider match, right? The winner moves on in the Esports World Cup. I'm wondering whether that moment right there, MVL maybe choosing not to pursue that flag, is going to come back to bite him. Let's see. We talk about these, Grunfeld type of structures. This is, it's now transposed kind of to a London system a little bit, but against a Grunfeld setup that MVL is certainly known for.
Yeah, MVL's certainly known for it. It should be said, this is the second match of the day. They've both played a match already, so this isn't necessarily home prep. They probably prepared a little bit for their first match. They knew who they were playing. But here, as you mentioned, this is just standard Grunfeld setup versus a London, which, by the way, means in this opening, you see all the pieces on the board. You get rich positions from it. These players both embrace sharp chess. We saw that in the last game. It went.
That's right.
It was good for white, then it was good for black, then it was good for white. At the end of the day, tied match. Here we go.
Yeah, and in this position, I look at the knight on A3, and one of the ways that knight re-enters the game is usually on the B1 square. Knight to B1 and back to C3. That's a much better square for the knight. Hitting D5, hitting E4. You never allow the knight to take the bishop. So bishop H2, an absolutely necessary reaction. And now that the B2 pawn is hit, Eric, I'm looking at queen B3, queen C2. Both moves look fantastic. I really like Nihal's position early on. A bit unorthodox for MVL. He's got the pieces kind of jumbled up together.
Well, I think unorthodox is the right way to say it. I'll say one thing. Grunfeld players are uncomfortable with this position. Why? look at our bishop on g7. There's a pawn on f6 blocking it. If I push that pawn f5, then white has the e5 square. Why didn't he play queen b3? You suggest that as one of the candidate moves? Because black has problems to solve. Keep the pieces on the board.
Yep.
Now with the queens on the board, if MVL pushes further on the king side, at least with the queens on the board, that'll be a better piece if you want to exploit those loose moves on the king side.
Now, I understand taking because it frees up the b5 square. That knight actually, in some cases, wants to retreat to c3. But I still think that we're kind of helping out MVL a little bit here.
What about queen b3 here?
Well, my instinct was bishop d3 earlier. Now, I don't think it's playable because the knight's on b5. So yes, queen b3 is necessary.
But this is just a bad position for black. You have no coordination. You have no stable squares besides the knight on e4. The knight on e6 is awkward because it blocks your e-pawn. The bishop g7, as I said, this is such a problem piece. Compare the bishops. The bishop on h2 has a full diagonal. The bishop on g7 has nothing. The bishop on g6, it's somewhat okay, but you have to weaken your king side to do so, and it's blocked by the knight on e4.
It should be back on f7 because what do you do about the d-pawn? Eric, a natural move like rook d8. I'm even looking at knight to c7. That could put you in an awkward spot with the bishop there. There's a lot of problems in this position immediately, and if rook d8's not played, there's not a good way to defend the d-pawn.
I think rook d8 is going to be played. I'm just looking for that punishing move for Nihal because I think Nihal wants to keep the queens on the board unless he sees something good. You mentioned rook d8, there's knight c7. Is knight c7 good? Yes, but everything good is good. We have to compare and figure out what puts the most pressure on MVL.
Yeah, rook d8 played. I think after knight c7, he's planning to maybe capture the, well, at this point he could capture the queen, capture the knight. I don't think he will actually lose the d-pawn here. I still think that Nihal has an advantage. A question mark here. There might have been better in the position, but Eric, this looks like a very, very standard move.
Well, we're looking at a position where it's two results. White is better. White has the only open file. And I don't see any risk. There's no weaknesses. Even if black trades on b3, there's doubled pawns. Those double pawns aren't easily targeted by black, and white can use the c file. Maybe white can use the a file. And actually, what you can do with the double pawns is push it down the board to gain space. If you eventually trade on b3, I do a takes b3. I march that pawn down to b4 to b5, and I start grabbing more and more squares. They can actually be used as a weapon.
Absolutely right. This is really putting MVL in the think tank. Yes, he captures the queen, of course, but after knight c7, rook takes c7. The rooks can double on the open file. You're winning a pawn regardless. Yes, it's not the most important because you have those doubled b-pawns, but Eric, big advantage for Nihal.
I'd rather be a pawn up than a pawn down. Bishop f8's a good move. That was a terrible piece before. He's preparing to go bishop d6, and I was even wondering if Nihal was going to take on b7 first or try to improve the position, play rook a1. He grabs the pawn, but now what does he have to consider? Endgames. I'm up a pawn, but how much can I actually trade? What exchanges favor me? One thing I notice is if you trade off the dark squared bishops, the c5 square is a bit weaker. Why am I looking at c5? I mentioned sometimes as white you push this b3 pawn to b4. That controls c5 and a5 a bit more. I'd love to get that knight on f3 to jump to e1, to jump to d3, to jump to c5. I want to use those doubled b pawns as an asset. If I don't, they're not as strong.
Yeah, that's right. And rook takes c7. Both moves look reasonable here, but he has to make sure that he keeps things closed. It's going to be huge counterplay for MVL if he can play rook c8, rook c2. Even up 2 pawns, if it's those doubled b pawns, Eric, it's probably not going to be enough to deal with the compensation there. So bishop takes c7. He might even have an idea of rook b8 here, and I think it's finally time for Nihal to bring the rest of the pieces into the game. I'm looking at the knight on f3. It's not been doing anything. It can't even move to d2. Knight e1 certainly presents itself as an option. Maybe bishop a5 and knight d2.
I have a move here that I think we saw Nihal play, bishop a6. Bishop a6 does the job of fixing that pawn on a7. Then the rook on a8 stays passive. Then we mentioned, bring the knight into the game because at the end of the day, where's black's counterplay? Yes, we can talk about all the nice moves for white, but black gets to move. What is black going to do at that time?
Yeah, you need to bring the pieces in. Knight e1 and knight d3 does synergize very well with your idea of b4 and controlling the c5 square. So I really like knight e1, d3. I also like bringing the white king into the middle.
a5 is played, but here we see why the double pawns are fine. Black might eventually be like, I can't keep defending a5, I'm going to play a4. If you play a4, white captures, and then he is up a full pawn.
Yep, then the b pawn is still there. I was looking at the move bishop to b5 here, maybe to stop a4. He's desperate for that you know, open line for the
Bishop
rook.
b5, bishop a4 looks really nice. You're controlling the diagonal, you're freezing the pawn, and you need to just buy yourself time. If white has opportunity, improve that light squared bishop, improve that knight. MVL needs to look for some sort of counterplay here, and it's looking tough.
He is going to stop the a4 move, so I like bishop b5. Now, similarly, bishop to b4 is probably going to happen from MVL. Knight d6, you have to take that. There's no question about that. You have stopped a4, but the bishop pair now, and with rook c8 coming, MVL might say, okay, take that pawn, I'm abandoning it. The knight on f3 is not doing anything. Remember, knight e1, d3 is a very slow plan, and rook c8 is coming next there.
So what about bishop d7? Bishop d7, okay, he goes rook b6, also looks good. I was curious about bishop b7 to stop rook c8 and then try to bring the knight in.
I think that was the best move, Eric.
But I don't know if I could bring the knight in if I put my bishop on d7, because then I can't go to d3. Maybe that's what Nihal didn't like. Rook b6, I don't know about it, but at the end of the day, MVL has to deal with this. How do you defend the bishop on d6? I don't think you want to lose e6. Remember, if your bishop gets harassed on b5, like with rook b8 in the future, you have bishop a4. You're not even necessarily losing a pawn. And you're happy to lose a pawn if you win one of black's center pawns. At the end of the day, the b pawns are doubled.
I think he's considering rook b8 here. Maybe rook takes d6, rook takes b5, with some compensation, going after those doubled b pawns. But if you're not playing that, I think rook d8 is perfectly fine here. At some point, you'll bring the king into the middle of the board for MVL. King f7, king e7, the bishop from d6. Once the e6 pawn is defended, can go to the b4 square nicely. And, you know, for the most part, those b pawns are not doing anything for a long time.
They're not doing anything for a long time, but we're still talking about a 2-result game, and Nihal's up 2 minutes on the clock.
Yep.
So he doesn't mind if this slows down. Black can bring the king in, but the problems aren't solved. At the end of the day, you're down a pawn, white's got activity, and there's some endgames you can't even enter. So I'm thinking, knight e1, maybe I play bishop d3. Would I mind trading off the light squared bishops? No. If I can, the knight on f3 is the key to the position.
Exactly.
If Nihal gets the knight into the game, I think his winning chances are very high. If doesn't get into the game, I don't know how you win the a5 pawn by force, and if you don't win it there is no passed pawn, there is no push.
Yeah, you have to bring the king and the knight. So king f1, king e2, knight e1, knight d3. I still like the idea of bringing the knight to the c5 square, and it's just all about the pressure. As long as you have MVL playing moves like rook d8, guarding the bishop, he's not fighting for rook c8. He's not, you know, making threats on the open file, and the bishops are very, very strong for black, but there's no immediate threat unless it's combined with a rook.
Nihal's investing a lot of time here. He knows this is critical. Is it time to bring the knight in, or can he play a move that restricts the king? I don't know if that's rook b7. I don't know if there's a time to play a move like g4, if that helps or if it hurts. It's quite hard. He plays king f1, bring the king in or bring the knight in. I mean, it's not a bad idea. When you don't know what to improve the king in endgame.
Yeah, bring the king to the middle, always recommended. I think black could do the same. King f7. Why do I like that move? It guards the e-pawn. I think that bishop c2, it's a great move to attack the pawn, but, you know, this threat is not that important. First of all, it can be prevented pretty nicely with bishop a4, but I think he might want that, so he can maybe play bishop to d3, and, you know, he has the bishop retreating to a4. I think he needs to just bring the king in.
So after king e2, what's the trick that you're mentioning if I take the pawn?
No, I want MVL to play king f7 instead of hunting these pawns here. It just looks like, okay, it's a one-move threat, but I really like the idea of defending that e6 pawn to free my rook on d8. You know, I can move my bishop and then move my rook.
So one idea here is you can play knight d2, bishop b4, king e2. He plays bishop e2 as a way to defend. I don't mind that at all. If bishop b4, knight e1. We're expecting knight e1 here. Finally unraveling, finally looking to remove the light squared bishops so the knight can find a square on d3. On a good day, not only do I get my knight on d3, I get my king to d2, so I take away any rook squares if black eventually gets in the move rook c8.
And you can trade bishops. Bishop d3, trade the bishops off. The number one thing you want to do when you're playing against a bishop pair, if you have a bishop and a knight, is trade the bishop you have for the bishop of the same color.
Do you give a check here first if you're Nihal?
That's
and
a
he
good
gives
question.
the check just to force it, because the king doesn't have g6.
Yep.
Either you pin yourself by playing bishop e7, or you put your king on a worse square. Now, if you ever trade bishops, h7 is loose. So by just including rook b7, the pressure builds. MVL's getting desperate. He offers a rook exchange.
You have to take that. There's no way you can allow rook takes b3 with b2 falling as well. But Eric, this is now an endgame where he's going to be down a pawn.
I think you can take and play b4. You can prepare to play b4 at the right moment and get your king to b3.
Yep. I mean, there's only one person that can win this position, and I'm just sitting here watching this game, Eric, and I'm thinking back, why didn't MVL push at the end of last game? Because if Nihal wins this, he is going to be regretting that.
Yeah, so Nihal has the idea of b4 in the future, but he doesn't need that to win. In certain positions, knight c5 and a trade there would be a winning endgame. White would be in time to bring the king to c3 and play b4. But in the meantime, you know what he's doing? He's putting his pawns on light squares. Why do you do that?
Well, I mean, against a dark square bishop, you're putting pawns on squares that simply can never be attacked. In my opinion, this is too committal. This move was available at any time. If black played the move f5, I might be more interested in g4. I will say that I find this move a little bit early, and maybe the move bishop b4 kind of highlights that. He's saying all of a sudden g4, you've closed things up. If you take my bishop now, that's a pawn endgame. You're up a pawn, but they clearly don't matter doubled on the b file.
Amon, I think you're completely right. If doubled pawns are isolated and they're frozen like that, white can't trade into the endgame. There's no entry squares. That's why we're highlighting that Nihal trying to play the move b3 to b4. Yes, you sacrifice a pawn temporarily, but you're arguing your king can get there first. You'll eventually win that pawn back, and when you do, it'll actually be a mobile pawn. Here, we don't have that, and I think MVL has made huge progress. I don't see the breakthrough for Nihal.
Yeah, he definitely still has a pass pawn, right? h4, h5. So he's always got that. But what he doesn't really get to enjoy is that extra pawn. The black bishop does need to watch over the b4 square at all times. We start to see the shuffling from MVL. He might be looking for a position that's completely closed off here. And I think we're not far from a potential f5, h5 break. Nihal has 3 minutes and 30 seconds. He's going to take his time because, Eric, this is a position that he shouldn't lose. The question is he going to be able to win so he can avoid Armageddon?
He went for g5. I was looking at this move. After the pawn move f5, I was trying to figure out the endgames after knight e5 check, but the problem is that gives MVL a protected pass pawn. But g5, what he's trying to do, win the e5 square and place the knight there. But there is an issue here. There is an issue. The issue is lots of white's pawns are in dark squares. It means if you commit your king to one part of the board, there's a lot of liabilities here.
Yep, the bishop will sneak in to d2 or e1. The move f5 has been played, and Eric, this move has to be 100% correct, or it may be 100% wrong. It feels like there's not much in between because the knight's jumping into e5. He's thinking he can hold it.
Can you trade and play h5? Does that ever work, or do you have to like massage the position? That's something to look for, but it probably doesn't work. Black just hugs the pawn, and there might not be a square.
Right, and MVL, he's saying he's calculated this through. Yes, advantage for white. Congratulations, you have an extra pawn, but is it enough to win? After knight e5, he's always going king g7. And Eric, how do you break through? You can play knight e5, you can play knight c6, but I think he's just going to be going back and forth. So maybe one idea is you could try to play knight c6, knight d8, put some pressure on e6, try to combine it with h5, but how crazy is that?
He wants to put his knight on g3, but there's this bishop e1 move.
Yep, and he's not able to play king e2 to prevent bishop e1 because bishop d6, and all of a sudden you need to guard f4.
You know, one question is how does he win it? The other is, okay, Nihal had a time advantage. It's disappearing now.
Yep.
If he had this position with a minute on the clock each, again, we favor the knight. It's a two-result game. He can keep checking, forking, looking for ideas, and MVL has the tough task of repeating. Here, MVL has 2 minutes and 20 seconds. That's a lot of time to continue playing accurate moves. Oh my goodness.
He's offering the h-pawn, and you know, as creatures of habit, once we find our draw, we just want to repeat. The idea that MVL has is bishop on b4, so he's offering the h-pawn, saying, take it. I have a different idea. I'm going to all of a sudden have a b4 plan.
If you take on h4, the knight can potentially trap the bishop or win something. Bishop h4, knight f3, bishop g3, knight e5. You bring the knight back to d3, and then you shift your king over to f3. MVL realizes it's a poison pawn. We're back. He didn't take the bait, and if Nihal calculates and does that, I think that's a smart decision.
Yep.
And we're back to square one. How does white make progress here?
Yep, he took some time off the clock, though. That's important.
You have to worry about repetitions.
And this is why you stick to the draw that you already have, right? MVL was not worried before. The knight's back on f3, maybe going to e5. That's okay. He's already been in this position. He just needs to defend g6.
Is Nihal looking to shift his king over to g3? When will he commit knight e5? Maybe you play, as you mentioned, knight e5, knight c6, but he has to try something different.
Yeah, a knight e5, definitely a move to attempt. You got to put that in there. He brings the knight to d3. Let's see, bishop d6, always a risky move, right? You want to leave that bishop on the b4 square. There's just no entry. You can't take it.
At any moment, do you think Nihal should try to bring the king over and play h5? When do you pursue that?
I mean, now's as good a time as any, but remember, there's also bishop e1 to consider. The good thing is you're not really threatening to take on h4 because knight b7 ideas.
He's baiting him again, Amon. He wants the bishop to go to e1.
Of course he does, because remember, even if the bishop takes on h4, it's not guaranteed, right? That doesn't really change the position.
Is the bishop trapped? Because knight d3 was the move that contained the bishop. The knight's on c3 now. So how do you take away e1 as a square?
I think that bishop's coming back.
I think that's a blunder by Nihal. I don't see how that bishop gets trapped.
Well, you know, he is keeping the game alive, but he's also down time here. And you got to be very careful against MVL. He's actually bringing winning chances to this game.
I think Nihal has to turn into draw mode. He's trying to push for a win here. He finally has played b4. He'd like to get that king to b3. That knight on e2 defends f4 and d4. So is MVL going to swing the king over to defend b4? He can also argue, even if you attack b4, I'll eventually play bishop e1, and you can't actually win the b4 pawn by force without giving something up, because again, white's pawns are in dark squares. If white gets the king on b3, knight on d3, one of those pawns, d4, something could be hanging. It's very hard to coordinate, but MVL's spending so much time. He just had a 15-second edge. It's down.
Well,
and
I think
again,
he's concerned, right? Knight c1, knight d3, how do you defend the b pawn? If you push the pawn, all of a sudden knight c5, he is picking up this pawn again. This is some kind of progress, because now maybe it's a little bit different.
It is progress. Nihal
Knight h4? He's missed knight h4. The idea of knight f3, knight h4.
You can't get in there. There's two squares, knight e5, knight h4. The king can't get in time. It's blocked out by knight e5 taking f7. And look at that.
And he's going to resign. Oh my goodness, just the idea of knight h4. We saw the game end a little bit early in the first game. We were critical of that. And now he's even resigned this one, 20-second deficit. He was about to lose the G-pawn. Eric, Nihal Sarin, S8UL Esports. He's defeated MVL. He's eliminated him, and he's moved on in the Esports World Cup.
And we have to give him credit. He was pressing the whole game, and he's someone who maximizes his chances. He does not allow repetition. He keeps going, and he's through.
That's incredible. Nihal Sarin. It's unbelievable how he keeps doing it. And at this point, Eric, we start to talk about the Nihal magic. He feels like a survivor. You know, how does he do it in those time scrambles? And then now, you know, he comes back and he just beats MVL 1.5 to half. Are you looking back as MVL at that first game in any way, or doesn't have as much of an impact?
I'm 100% looking back at that first game. MVL had winning chances throughout the game, and in that end game, I think if Nihal had the reverse colors, he probably would have won as white. He would have maximized it, but he's definitely not going to just push a pawn and allow a draw. I think MVL has to regret the first game looking at this result.
Yep, and it's just a reminder that this format is something that I think Nihal really understands. We saw him come out of the last chance qualifier, so he's worked really hard to earn his place here, but what he's done is he's been resourceful every single time. So he's always found a way. Low on time, he'll save a half a point. He might turn it into a full point. And in this position right here, when it looked like there was no progress to be made, he found a way, he liquidated, and every single time that he made a decision, the time was getting lower and lower. It was turning into a win condition on its own.
Yeah, when MVL felt like he was getting closer to a draw, he wins upon Nihal plays this b4 move, just changing the position entirely and posing new problems, and he just keeps finding a way to do that.
Yep. No, Nihal has been extremely impressive. What a pickup by S8UL Esports. I just think he's one of the players in the competition that is using the clock the best. Yes, he gets into time trouble. We've seen that. It's, you know, it's a point of criticism, but he's allowed to if he's able to do this time and time again, Eric.
Yeah, I think most players looking at the field, you do not want to have a time situation, time scramble with Nihal. He's so cool under pressure.
Yeah, he really is. We've known that about him for so long. It's nice to see him on this big stage and still doing it over and over again. I just think he's combining the chess with the esports time control the best. We're down with an interview. James Canty is with your winner, Nihal Sarin.
I'm here with Nihal Sarin. Congratulations. What happened in the match today?
Thank you. Well, I think this was a good match. I think the first game was quite, at least, I mean, for this time control, probably quite good quality from both of us. I was under some pressure, but I think I managed to defend pretty well, and also on the clock I was able to hang on. But Maxim is so fast, if you get so low on clock against him, I think you have no chance. So I was just trying to somehow play fast and hope for the best. And yeah, second game I was very happy with the position I got from the opening. It's just very pleasant to play, and I managed to win a pawn soon. And of course, he defended very well, like he always does. And I was struggling to convert, and I started getting slight flashbacks of yesterday where I was struggling to convert pawn up. But although this was not smooth at all, I somehow, after this b4 92, somehow I almost accidentally trapped his bishop. So, or he has to give the b pawn to clear b4, but then I finally get my pass pawn.
Right.
So yeah, then in the end, okay, after knight f3, I'm even getting g6 by force. So.
Right. What do you think worked well for you in the 2 matches you won today?
Okay, against Anish, I was extremely lucky in the second game. But yeah, otherwise, I think I just managed to just keep making moves and yeah, just try to be calm, and fortunately it paid off. Yeah.
That's amazing. Stay calm and keep making moves here. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Back to you at the desk.
Thank you very much, James. Thank you very much, Nihal. Huge congratulations to Nihal Sarin of SAUL Esports, who won both of his matches today to make it into the quarterfinals. What do you make of this, Benjamin?
Yeah, incredible day for Nihal. I mean, he was looking down the barrel of elimination, but he managed to defeat Anish. It looked like that match was going to Armageddon as Anish was completely winning. And now he defeats MVL. I mean, really impressive start by Nihal. In the first game, he was significantly worse, close to losing at some point. He managed to save a draw there, and in the second game, which seemed like it was headed towards a draw, he kept playing the position, kept pressure on the clock, and eventually found a way to win.
Indeed. Do you think that MVL should have gone harder for the win in that first game?
I think so. I don't quite understand why he just gave up that final pawn and allowed Nihal to draw. I think Nihal probably would have saved the draw there, but he was down to 6 seconds. MVL could have, tried to flag him, as it was not a 100% draw.
For sure. I believe in these 10-minute games, right, with no increment on the clock, you really have to take every opportunity that you can possibly get. It really feels like from the 2 games that we saw Nihal play today, he made full advantage of those 10 minutes as well as the game. Whereas his opponents, he himself said he perhaps got a little bit luckier against Anish. But even in that second game, why did MVL trade the rooks?
Yeah, good question. It seemed like that rook trade led to a winning endgame for Nihal, even though it was very difficult to finish off. Nihal also was struggling, like he said, he was having flashbacks to yesterday, but eventually he did find a way.
He did indeed find a way to win, and we will be taking a look at where he goes from here. He has made it into the quarterfinals.
Let's take a look at the brackets. We are back here. Wow. And in the brackets here, Group B. Nemo, take us through the brackets here.
Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, who beat Anish Giri yesterday 1.5, 0.5, unfortunately did also lose to Arjun Erigasi 1-2. Arjun progressing through the Armageddon. And now he has unfortunately lost against Nihal Sarin, who is going to be going into the playoffs.
Yeah, very impressed by Nihal. I would think, looking at this group, Nihal perhaps the underdog, but he managed to find a way. I mean, first beating Anish, then MVL, very impressive. And he's in the quarterfinals of the Esports World Cup. He really shows that he belongs here.
MVL still taking home $50,000. So, his run at this Esports World Cup is unfortunately over. Team Vitality will not be getting a chance at that 1,000 points, as they are currently leading in the Esports Club Championship rankings.
It's amazing here to see Nihal and Arjun here. I mean, the Indians are some of the strongest players in chess, as we see even the world champion right now being Gukesh from India as well. India is in powerhouse, and you see that in the playoffs so far. So Group A here, as Group A made it through with Yasipenko facing Levan Aronian, and Levan was able to win and advance to the playoffs there. And in the elimination match, looks like Yana Pomniachtchi was able to beat Artemiev down there at the bottom there for now a decider match. Yasipenko and Yana Pomniachtchi, which is still going on right now. Looks like that's going to Armageddon. How do you feel about that one, Bog?
Yeah, that's going to be an exciting one. Yasipenko against Nepomniachtchi really looks like a coin flip. Anyone can win. Goes to Armageddon, so I'm excited to see who makes it through to the quarterfinals.
Quarterfinals are going to be absolutely stacked. It will be super exciting. I mean, are you going to be looking forward to any specific matchups?
Absolutely. I mean, this one, the Armageddon between Yasipenko and Nepomniachtchi, I think will be an exciting one. I'm also really curious what's going on in the other groups. Like, we have exciting matches all around.
Absolutely. We have a lot to watch, guys. A lot to watch. But, of course, we have a graphic for you guys by Sony. Let's take a look at what that is. There it is, the man himself. Daily MVP beating MVL. Look at that. Wow, Nihal Sarin is absolutely a force to be reckoned with. And in fact, as we've seen when the show started, the content piece we have from him said himself that he is actually an underdog. What do you think about that, Bach? He said he was an underdog, and it feels like he may not be such an underdog anymore.
I really thought he was an underdog going into today. I thought he was the underdog against Anish. He managed to win that one. Really impressive. And beating MVL, I did not expect that. I mean, MVL had a big advantage in game number 1. Also in game number 2, it seemed like it was headed towards a draw. But like we said before, Nihal, it seems like he gets an extra half a point from every game. When he's losing, he makes a draw. And when it's a draw, he gets a win. So yeah, he's got that skill.
Wow, that is a skill. How many more?
He's really been converting his games. Sometimes not necessarily converting. He doesn't have the advantage to start with, but he squeezes out that win, which is really impressive. But we also have to mention, part of the reason why he is an MVP right now here at the Esports World Cup is also because he qualified through the last chance qualifiers. He had a much longer journey, perhaps, than MVL, well, at least here in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, he's had an amazing run here in Riyadh. When he came here, he didn't have anything yet. I mean, he made it through the last chance qualifier to the main event. Now beating Anish and MVL to make it through the quarters is huge.
It is absolutely huge here, guys, but we have to cut the day short. What are we going to do? There's no more chess today. I guess I'm going to go in the other studio and go watch them play chess, but you guys can still be watching at home here. We still have more chess coming for the other days here, but that's it from us here at Studio B here at Esports World Cup. Guys, we'll see you same time tomorrow.
And ladder. My ex-base, come on, new one's better. It's a playground, better watch your man's getting safe out. See some play game like snakes and ladder. My ex-base, come on, new one's better. Moves like Jagger, hits come on, new one's better. We ain't in a mix, no grubber. Them trick bang fraud like scammer. Explain me real, that's a real bone capper. Pass don't matter, build strong still, pray this thing don't shatter. When shit gets real, so the real don't scatter. Got bread and batter, 4 hands on the bread like platter. Said it's cold out, they back in beef, got the phones out. Watch where I sleep and where I roll round. Guess I'm gone now. They ain't even there when it goes down. It's a playground. Better watch your man getting safe out. See some play game like snakes and ladder. My ex-base, come on, new one's better. It's a playground. Better watch your man getting safe out. See some play game like snakes and ladder. My ex-base, come on, new one's better. My new one's bad, that's my baby. He let me shine and never shady. Girl, same cute, but that don't faze me. If you ask him, then he say, got a queen and that she crazy. Please never play me. He said, please never break me. He's switching station to Mercedes, thinking that it faze me. I can love you for the dark and all my days, but you just never break me. It's a playground. Better watch your man getting safe out. See some play game like snakes and ladder. My ex-piss, come on, new one's better. Playground. Better watch your man getting safe out. See some play game like snakes and ladder. My ex-piss, come on, new one's better. Playground. Bitches got a ring and feel it safe now. They see a pretty bird and bird, I want a cage out. sitting safe out. See some play game like snakes and ladder. My ex-piss come on, new ones better. Playground, better watch your man sitting safe out. See some play game like snakes and ladder. My ex-piss come on, new ones better. My new one's bad, he ain't